Tears welled up in her violet eyes as despair consumed her heart. The pain of humiliation weighed heavily on her chest, suffocating her spirit. Her thoughts echoed in silence. If I had to live such a humiliating life in front of others, I'd rather die than... The words trembled in her mind, her expression pale and broken, caught between fear and determination. Suddenly, a voice cut through the heavy air. "Hey!" The man in the suit shouted, his tone filled with urgency and alarm. His sharp eyes widened as he reached out toward her, realizing too late what she was about to do. Her long pink hair swayed like ribbons in the air as she moved, refusing to look back. Her body spun as if caught in a gust of wind, her dress fluttering with every motion. The man lunged forward, trying to grab her before disaster struck. Her face showed a mixture of fear and resolve. She was ready to throw everything away, even her own life, to escape the shame that haunted her. Then came a sharp motion. Bang! Her hair whipped through the air as her head moved violently. The scene blurred into chaos, and the sound of impact echoed across the room. Everything happened in an instant, leaving no time for second thoughts. Her body collapsed forward, her eyes shut tight, and her lips parted in a silent cry. Pain, confusion, and sorrow converged into one fleeting moment. The room fell still, the man frozen in shock as she fell, the girl who had chosen despair over disgrace. Shock flashed across both men's faces, the man in the suit and the older gentleman with glasses. Their eyes widened, the air between them heavy with disbelief. An unspoken alarm seemed to pass through them in that instant, their hearts skipping a beat as the gravity of the situation finally sank in. The man in the suit rushed forward, his expression filled with panic. He dropped to his knees beside the girl whose body now lay limp on the floor. "You," he whispered, his voice trembling as he lifted her head with trembling hands. Blood streaked down from a wound near her temple, staining her pale skin and her soft pink hair. He gently cradled her in his arms, afraid that even the smallest movement might hurt her further. Her delicate form rested against his chest, fragile, motionless, and frighteningly cold. His eyes reflected anguish and regret, as if he blamed himself for letting this happen right before his eyes. Her lips quivered faintly as she struggled to speak, her voice weak and fading. "I'd rather die than let others see." The words escaped her like a final breath, the echo of her earlier despair. His heart clenched at her confession, realizing too late the depth of her pain and humiliation. Her eyes fluttered closed as silence fell over the room. The man held her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheek in a desperate attempt to keep her awake. "Please, don't close your eyes," he whispered hoarsely, but her breathing had already slowed. He stayed frozen, his forehead resting against hers, consumed with guilt and helplessness as the reality of her suffering set in. As tension filled the air, a stern voice pierced through the room. A figure, likely a doctor or someone in authority, turned sharply, frustration evident in his tone. "What are you waiting for? Don't you even drive your—" He barked, his words sharp and accusing, creating an atmosphere thick with urgency. The person he was addressing stood frozen, the weight of the situation making them hesitate. The voice didn't waver, growing louder and more commanding. "Your car to here!" A young man, clearly agitated and dressed in a suit, glared with frustration. His intense expression showed a mix of desperation and anger as he shouted. His clenched jaw and furrowed brows suggested that time was of the essence. Every second mattered. Without waiting for a reply, he swiftly bent down and scooped a young woman into his arms. Her long, flowing pink hair draped down as she appeared unconscious or severely weakened. Her delicate frame was slumped, dressed in a soft pink dress that shimmered slightly even in the dim light. Another figure reached out, possibly trying to help her intervene, but the man holding her was focused, determined to get her out of there. The urgency had turned into action. The story opens with a serene morning sky, painted in hues of blue and soft white clouds drifting peacefully. The sunlight bathes the city below in a warm glow, signifying a calm yet promising start to the day. The towering skyscrapers reflect the sunlight, standing tall and proud like silent guardians of the city's heartbeat. This peaceful scenery sets the tone just before the story draws us into something more personal and emotional. Inside a spacious, sunlit hospital room overlooking the cityscape, a quiet scene unfolds. A girl with pink hair lies unconscious in a hospital bed, her face pale but calm. Her body is gently wrapped in a blue blanket, and an IV drip stands silently by her side. A man in a white coat, likely a doctor, stands at her bedside, his expression thoughtful and concerned. Across the room, another man dressed in a sharp black suit sits quietly on a couch, watching the girl from a distance. The atmosphere is still, filled with unspoken tension and worry, suggesting that something significant has just happened or is about to happen. In a reflective close-up, the man in the white coat is shown deep in thought. His glasses gleam under the light, partially obscuring his eyes, but his serious expression reveals the weight of his thoughts. Text surrounds him, narrating his inner monologue. Unexpectedly, her personality was so intense, although I was just joking, but she thought that it was real. Fortunately, her brain was only slightly injured. His words reveal regret and surprise. What he thought was a harmless joke turned into something far more serious. The girl had taken his words to heart, and it had affected her to the point of injury. His calm demeanor hides the guilt he carries for the unintended consequences of his actions. In a bright, high-rise office overlooking a bustling city, a sharply dressed man in a black suit sits calmly on a cream-colored couch. His cold, composed demeanor is matched only by his piercing gaze, which is directed towards someone standing off-panel. The room feels tense, heavy with the weight of his words. He speaks firmly, offering a disturbingly transactional suggestion. If you simply like her body, I can help you find some sexy girl and still virgin, you let her go. His tone implies power, control, and a complete detachment from any sense of emotional depth or morality. To him, people are replaceable, and feelings are negotiable, especially when it comes to women. It's clear he sees love, or perhaps lust, as nothing more than a solvable problem with the right replacement. The scene shifts slightly, revealing more of the setting. The suited man remains poised and calculated, holding a pen in his long fingers, exuding the air of someone in complete control. Sitting, or rather lying on the couch before him, is a young man with soft pink hair, dressed in blue, with bunny ears perched atop his head. The pink-haired boy lies still, seemingly unconscious or asleep, a bandage adorning his head, evidence of a recent injury. His peaceful, vulnerable expression contrasts starkly with the cold conversation happening around him. The contrast between their positions, the authoritative man upright and calculating, the pink-haired figure passive and fragile, sets the tone for a power dynamic riddled with complexity and unspoken conflict. The tension escalates as the suited man turns to another figure entering the room, a stylish man with silver hair and golden glasses, his sharp expression betraying annoyance or disbelief. The suited man, slightly incredulous, raises a brow and questions his counterpart in a biting tone. "Don't tell me that you like this white bunny?" His voice drips with sarcasm and perhaps a hint of jealousy or judgment. The term white bunny seems to refer to the pink-haired boy, likely a nickname derived from his bunny ears and delicate appearance. This is no longer just a conversation about attraction or possession. It's about the unexpected emotions that are beginning to surface in a situation originally built on something far more transactional. As tension filled the air of the room, a young man stood stiffly beside the hospital bed, fists slightly clenched, struggling to process what he had just heard. His eyes remained on the unconscious girl lying in the bed, her fragile frame wrapped in a thin blanket. "How is it possible?" he exclaimed, almost in disbelief. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with an odd mixture of frustration and sympathy. I just feel she's a bit pitiful," he admitted, his tone softer now, almost defeated. But before he could go on, a cold, mocking voice cut through the silence. A voice from someone who had no room in his heart for compassion. The voice belonged to a tall, imposing man with sharp, violet eyes and a chilling smile that never reached them. His presence alone commanded authority, and every word he spoke dripped with icy control. "She's the one that I used money to get," he said coldly, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. "You better not touch her." His voice was calm, but the threat beneath his words was crystal clear. He leaned in slightly, speaking with venomous confidence. "You know it. For those who want to betray me, I definitely won't forgive them easily." And with that, he let out a cold, derisive laugh, the kind that sends a shiver down one's spine. It was clear to him the girl wasn't a person, but a possession. Unable to stay silent any longer, another man stepped forward. He was younger, his silver-gray hair framing a face filled with concern and frustration. His golden-rimmed glasses reflected his unwavering gaze as he raised his voice, unwilling to hide his disagreement. "Boss," he said, firmly but respectfully, "I will never touch your people, but she is just a girl. She doesn't even know anything." His voice cracked slightly, a mix of anger and empathy rising within him. "You don't have to treat her so cruelly, right?" There was no denying the divide between the two men. One ruled by power and control, the other guided by reason and heart. As tension fills the room, a man with silver-gray hair and a sharp gaze turns his back on the others. His hand grips the door handle tightly, his posture straight and composed, but his words betray the storm within. "I won't bother you two anymore," he declares with finality. "I go first." Without waiting for a response, he prepares to leave, leaving behind a heavy silence and unspoken feelings. Behind him, another figure, partially visible, watches, unable to stop him, caught between shock and uncertainty. A moment of quiet. The focus shifts to a hanging IV drip, slowly releasing fluid into a line. The hospital room is still, almost sterile in its silence. This image, simple and still, speaks volumes. It's a symbol of someone fighting, recovering, or perhaps escaping through fragility. The muted light and the emptiness of the scene hint at something serious that just occurred or is about to unfold. It's the calm before or after the emotional storm. Now, beside a hospital bed, a man with dark, neatly styled hair and a stern expression stares down at a girl lying unconscious. His suit is sharp, his demeanor cold, but his thoughts reveal the truth. "Dare to use this method to deal with me?" he thinks, eyes narrowing with a mix of respect and frustration. She is so brave. There's a strange admiration in his internal monologue, as if he's just realized the strength of the girl who lies so vulnerable before him. What game has she played, and what price has she paid? In the quiet room of the hospital, a young woman lies motionless on the bed, her face pale beneath the soft glow of the overhead light. Her pink hair spreads out across the pillow, fragile like the fading petals of a flower.
Beside her stands a man dressed in a dark suit, his expression tense yet gentle. He slowly reaches out, his fingertips brushing her cheek as if afraid she might disappear. The rhythmic beeping of medical monitors fills the silence, amplifying the weight of the moment. Dark, endless water stretches into the distance, swallowing everything in its cold embrace. A small ripple forms, a desperate plea breaking through the void. "Do not! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" The words echo as though coming from a place between life and death, a faint voice struggling to hold on to the world above. Her body thrashes beneath the surface, lungs burning as water floods in. "Cough! Cough!" She chokes and gasps, the sound muffled by the darkness closing in around her. Her pink hair floats like a halo, her face twisted in fear and pain. The word struggling hangs in the air, capturing the terror of someone fighting for every breath. Panic surges through her as her hands reach upward, fingers grasping at nothing but water. Her chest tightens, every movement slower than the last. Bubbles rise around her, breaking the surface somewhere far above. "Help me! Someone help me! Please!" The plea reverberates in the dark water, but no one answers. Her body drifts downward, swallowed by the shadows. The last fragments of her voice linger, faint and trembling. "Help me!" The darkness closes in, silent and merciless, as if the world itself is holding its breath.
In that instant, something powerful cuts through the darkness. Warmth. A hand reaches out, firm and unwavering, grasping hers tightly. The motion is urgent, pulling her back from the edge of despair. The world, which had felt so distant and cold, suddenly holds meaning again. The single word echoes like a promise in the air. Hold. In that grip, there is strength, hope, and the silent vow that she is not alone. Her trembling fingers, soaked and pale, break through the surface of the water, clutching desperately at the wooden edge. Droplets slide down her knuckles and splash back into the black current below. It's a fragile, fleeting grasp, but it's enough. Her nails scrape against the surface as she struggles to pull herself up, every muscle fighting against the weight dragging her down. The world above is so close, and she refuses to let go. With a gasping breath, she collapses onto the wet ground, coughing violently as water pours from her lips. Her body shudders, lungs burning, but air, sweet, precious air, fills them once more. Each breath is a painful victory. Her pink hair sticks to her face, heavy with water, but she doesn't care. She's alive. A trembling sigh escapes her, mingling with the sound of rippling water. The nightmare hasn't ended, but for this moment, she has been saved. His gaze sharpens, a storm quietly stirring in his violet eyes. They are calm, yet filled with an intensity that can't be mistaken. The light catches on his lashes as he lowers his head slightly, deep in thought. There's something unreadable in his expression, an emotion hidden behind his composed exterior. It's a look that carries both determination and something softer, something he doesn't often allow the world to see. Without hesitation, his hand reaches out and wraps around hers. The warmth of his touch breaks through the sterile air of the hospital room. His grip is firm, protective, as if silently promising he will never let go. Her smaller hand trembles slightly inside his, but his hold remains steady, strong enough to keep her anchored to the world. The word hold echoes like a vow between their palms. Now she knows what fear is. The thought cuts through the silence like a blade. He stands near the bed, his expression cool and unreadable, his posture straight and composed. The bright light behind him contrasts with the heavy air between them. For a moment he doesn't speak. He only watches her, as if trying to read every hidden emotion in her fragile state. His presence is both reassuring and unsettling, like someone who knows exactly how much power he holds. Beside the hospital bed, he doesn't release her hand. His tall figure casts a long shadow over the sheets, making her pale pink hair seem even more delicate against the sterile white. Her fingers are small, fragile, yet he holds them with a quiet certainty. It's a gesture that says everything words can't, a bond neither of them can deny, even in silence. Her voice breaks the stillness, soft but trembling with emotion. Do not. I beg you, don't do that in front of others. Lying weakly on the bed, her eyes remain closed, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. The bandage on her forehead stands as a reminder of the pain she endured. But right now, what flusters her more is the closeness between them. She can feel the weight of his hand, the warmth of his presence, and the way it stirs something in her heart that she can't control. He leans closer, the world outside their hospital room fading into a blur. His forehead touches hers gently, a silent reassurance that words could never express. It's better, he whispers, his breath warm against her skin. The city beyond the window glimmers under the soft daylight, but all she can focus on is him, the closeness, the warmth, the way time seems to stop between their locked gazes. It's not just comfort, it's a promise. The sunlight pours softly through the wide hospital windows, casting a golden hue over the two figures. He leans in close, his face only inches from hers. Their breaths mingle, and in that quiet moment, the world seems to fade away. Her eyes soften, her lips curve into a faint smile, fragile yet sincere. His expression is intense, almost tender, as if he's caught between restraint and longing. The faint cityscape outside blurs into nothing but light and warmth, wrapping the moment in stillness. The moment breaks. He straightens, turning sharply away from the bed. His tailored suit catches the sunlight, sharp lines defining his tall figure. His face, calm but unreadable, hides a mix of emotions behind that practiced composure. The caption flashes, turning. Perhaps he's trying to hide the turmoil within, or maybe he's simply reminding himself of the distance he must keep. Either way, every movement carries quiet tension, like a man walking away from something he secretly wishes to stay for. As he steps away, something tugs at him, literally. Her hand, small and pale, grips his tightly. The motion halts him mid-step. Pull. Her fingers tremble, her expression unseen, yet her grasp speaks volumes, a silent plea not to go. For a heartbeat, he doesn't move. The air between them thickens with unspoken words. His eyes lower toward their intertwined hands, and in that simple connection, the world narrows down to two people who refuse to let go, even when they know they should. His eyes widen slightly, a rare flicker of surprise breaking through his usual calm. The deep violet of his gaze dims with uncertainty, a shadow of hesitation crossing his features. The emotions he thought he'd locked away begin to stir again. The faint lines of confusion above his brows betray the battle within, a mix of guilt, frustration, and something else he can't quite name. He exhales quietly, transforming once again into a smaller, chibi version of himself. His serious demeanor melts into awkward silence. ... His gaze shifts to the nearby sofa, glimmering as though it's offering him an escape. A tiny thought bubble forms. Sofa will be more comfortable. It's a light-hearted moment after the storm, a contrast to the heavy emotions that came before. Even so, behind that small frown, there's a quiet acceptance, a surrender to the strange warmth she stirs within him. The girl lies peacefully beneath the soft blue hospital blanket. Her long pink hair fans out across the pillow, glowing under the morning light. The wound on her forehead is still there, but her expression is serene, almost angelic. A faint smile plays on her lips as if lost in a gentle dream. The chaos, the fear, the struggle, all of it seems far away now. For this moment, she looks calm, safe, and perhaps just a little bit happy. The room is quiet, bathed in the soft glow of morning light streaming through the windows. Their hands are still linked together, his warm, steady grip over her frail, pale fingers. The other hand of the girl lies weakly on the bed, a thin tube attached to it, a silent reminder of the fragility she carries. The stillness speaks louder than words. His hand doesn't tremble. It holds her gently yet firmly, as if he's afraid she'll disappear if he lets go. Slowly she stirs. Her lashes flutter open, blinking against the light. A soft murmur escapes her lips. Her hand rises weakly to shield her eyes from the brightness. The world is blurry, unfamiliar, but undeniably real. Her pink hair spreads out over the pillow like silk, glowing softly under the morning sun. For a moment, she looks lost, as though caught between the haze of dreams and the weight of reality. Her body is still weak, barely moving beneath the hospital blanket. The scene zooms in on the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she breathes, steady but fragile. The fabric of the blanket catches the warm light, wrapping her in a fragile sense of calm. Everything feels distant, almost too quiet, as if the world is holding its breath, waiting for her to fully wake up. Her eyes slowly open wider now, a confused and dazed expression filling them. "Who?" she whispers, her voice barely audible. Her pupils reflect both fear and curiosity. She turns her gaze upward, trying to piece together where she is, who might be nearby, and why everything feels both familiar and strange at once. The wound on her forehead is still raw, a sharp reminder of the storm she went through before ending up here. The quiet is broken by a low, firm voice. "Woke up." He stands by the window, tall and composed in his dark suit, his presence sharp against the bright sky. The narration box reads, "An hour later." There's something in his tone, not just relief, but also a hint of something he doesn't want to name. His eyes are fixed on her, making it impossible to ignore the weight of his gaze. His hand reaches out instinctively. Without a word, their fingers find each other again, as if drawn by something stronger than either of them can resist. She lies there, weak but awake now. Her eyes follow the warmth that envelops her hand. He stands tall by her bedside, but for that brief second, their world narrows down to just this, a quiet connection, fragile yet unshakable. Her eyes widen in shock, pupils trembling like ripples on still water. The sudden realization hits her like a bolt of lightning, sharp, unavoidable. The soft glow in her pink-violet eyes makes the exclamation marks hanging above her seem almost audible. For her heart beat, everything around her stills. Her world narrows down to this single, breathtaking moment of surprise. She straightens up, her hands trembling slightly, as she looks up at the tall figure before her. Her voice rushes out quickly, almost desperate to fill the silence. "Sorry, I will not dare to do it the next time, sir. I will obey. I will listen to you." Her words come out like a practiced plea, one she's forced to repeat too many times. Her bright eyes, still framed by the bandage on her forehead, hold a mixture of fear and forced obedience. Though her tone is light, there's a heaviness behind it, a truth hidden between the lines. Her fingers fidget nervously, the motion almost instinctive. She clasps her hands together tightly, a fragile attempt to hold herself together. The man stands tall before her, silent and unmoving, his presence pressing down on her like a shadow she cannot escape. The small nightstand beside her holds nothing but a phone and a tiny flower, a quiet contrast to the tension thickening the air around them. She bows her head slightly, trying to hide the unease in her heart. Her thoughts scream silently inside her mind as the words appear, like echoes radiating outward. I should not be so angry, otherwise he will vent his anger on my relatives. Then what should I do? Just needing him can't make me live without losing my self-respect. Then I can do it all for him. The words are heavy, suffocating. She's trapped in the fragile space between fear and survival, bargaining with her own dignity just to keep everything from shattering. Her head lowers, casting a shadow over her face. The light no longer glimmers in her eyes, only dull pain remains. Her brows draw together tightly, and her small hand clenches near her chest, as if she's holding back something that threatens to break her apart. The pink of her hair falls forward, veiling part of her face like a curtain. She looks fragile, not because she is weak, but because she is trying too hard to endure. He watches her with a stern, unreadable expression. The sunlight streams through the window behind him, highlighting the sharp lines of his suit. His tone is cold and commanding, leaving no space for defiance. If you woke up, then eat something. He adjusts his cuff slowly, every movement deliberate. It's not a request, it's an order, the kind she's expected to follow without hesitation. As the morning light spills softly into the room, the girl suddenly sits up on the hospital bed. A jolt of realization flashes across her delicate face. Her violet eyes widen, sparkling with panic. "Oh my, school!" she blurts out. The words echo in her mind like an alarm bell. For a moment, all the pain and exhaustion are replaced by sheer urgency, the kind that only a student who's missed something important would understand. Her hand grips the railing of the bed tightly, as if anchoring herself to reality. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of thoughts in her head. The phone resting on the small nightstand catches her attention. She knows she has to act fast. The world outside hasn't paused just because she's in here. The soft pastel colors of the room contrast sharply with the rising tension in her chest. Her slender fingers reach out toward the phone. The movement is quick, almost instinctive, as if calling for help or answers is the only thing she can do right now. The small pink flower charm by the phone sways lightly, catching the light. A tiny fragment of normalcy in a morning that suddenly feels too loud. She turns to the tall man standing by the window, his figure framed against the bright blue sky. "I need to call my friend," she says, her voice urgent but soft, hoping he won't refuse her. Her pink hair falls around her shoulders, giving her a fragile, earnest look. She clutches the phone close, waiting for his reaction. The man looks down at her, expression unreadable. His hands adjust his cufflinks with composed, deliberate movements, a sign of someone who rarely loses control. After a beat of silence, he simply says, "Sure?" Relief floods her face immediately. She clutches the phone tighter, a faint smile forming at the corner of her lips. For now, at least, she has his permission. Bringing the phone to her ear, her voice softens. "Hello? Xiaozhang?" she whispers, her tone carrying a mix of nervousness and relief. Her violet eyes glimmer faintly as she speaks, the bandage on her forehead catching the light. It's a small moment of connection, fragile but meaningful, in the quiet, sunlit hospital room. The phone call begins with a tone of urgency. A worried voice on the other end bursts out with a flood of concern. Huh. Why didn't you come home all night? You didn't even go to school today, and your phone was turned off. I even asked for permission to let you off today. But how are things going? Are you okay? This opening sets a tense and emotional mood, showing someone deeply worried about Kaka's well-being after a night of disappearance. The chaotic lines framing the dialogue emphasize panic and anxiety. A girl with long pink hair, still in striped pajamas, holds her phone tightly, her brows knit together as she hears the frantic voice. She seems overwhelmed, clutching her chest and raising her voice to calm the other side. The background radiates orange tones, a reflection of the emotional storm. She's clearly stressed, but also trying to keep control of the situation. Her tone softens, her eyes lowering as she speaks through the phone. There's a bandage on her forehead, and she explains in a quiet, slightly embarrassed way, "I'm fine. Last night I went to the market, I suddenly slipped, and my head was injured." The mood shifts to one of vulnerability. The pink bubbles floating in the background give a sense of calm and slight sadness, contrasting with the earlier chaos. The voice on the other end grows even more concerned. "You were injured? Is it serious? Have you been to the hospital yet? Aya, where are you now? I'll visit you." Meanwhile, the girl replies softly, almost pleading, "I'm at a friend's house. I'm afraid relatives will worry, so don't tell them. You have to help me keep it a secret, okay?" Her attempt to hide her pain reveals both her independence and fear of worrying those close to her. She presses the phone against her ear, her purple eyes narrowing slightly. The word "peep" marks the sound of someone else nearby. Her look is cautious. She's aware that someone around her might be listening. There is a touch of uneasiness mixed with determination in her gaze. A man with dark hair and piercing violet eyes comes into focus. He looks at her with a sharp, slightly suspicious expression and asks, "Friend, who?" The word "look" beside his image emphasizes his intent gaze. His presence immediately adds tension, hinting at a more complex relationship between them, perhaps protective, perhaps possessive, or simply concerned. Kaka lowers her gaze slightly as she explains in a soft, hesitant voice. Her fingers clutch the phone tightly while a bead of sweat slides down her temple, revealing her nervousness. "That is the person I met last night, Minister Bei Ming Zhuan. Coincidentally, he helped me." There's a faint sparkle beside her, showing the awkward and tense atmosphere as she tries to sound casual about an encounter that clearly wasn't ordinary. The way she avoids eye contact makes her words sound even less convincing. On the other end of the line, her friend reacts instantly and enthusiastically. The panel focuses on Kaka's pajama-clad figure holding the phone close. "Aww, I saw his photos on social media. Very handsome. You have to take this chance." The bubbly reaction contrasts sharply with Kaka's reserved tone. Her friend's excitement seems to rise through the phone, flooding the quiet room with teasing energy. Kaka's long pink hair cascades down, hinting at her inner discomfort with the sudden turn of the conversation. The scene widens to reveal Bei Ming Zhuan standing behind her. He's impeccably dressed in a dark suit and striped tie, his presence composed and elegant. Kaka, still on the phone, stiffens slightly as she tries to put an end to the conversation. "Don't talk nonsense. He and I don't have any relationship. I'll come back tomorrow. Let's talk later." Her cheeks are slightly flushed, not out of embarrassment, but from the pressure of being misunderstood. Behind her, Bei Ming Zhuan watches calmly, his expression unreadable. The focus shifts closer to her side profile. Kaka's expression is serious now, her voice firm, as she tries to maintain control of the situation. Her fingers clutch the phone a little tighter as she stands in front of him. The background is softly lit, giving away a sense of tension that words can't fully express. She's aware that he's listening, which makes her more cautious with every word she says. A close-up of the phone shows her thumb hovering over the red button. With a decisive movement, she ends the call. Turn off. The bright red circle on the screen seems to symbolize the sharp cut between her and the teasing voice on the other end. Silence falls over the room as the call ends, leaving her standing with the weight of unspoken words and the man silently watching nearby. Without warning, a firm hand lands on Kaka's shoulder. The pressure is sudden, not aggressive, but unyielding. She stiffens instinctively as the man's grip pushes her back. The soft sound effect, push, rings through the silence, capturing the swift, almost instinctive movement that changes the atmosphere in an instant. Her pink hair sways with the motion, and her heartbeat quickens at the sudden closeness. In the next moment, her back meets the mattress behind her. The world tilts, and before she can process what's happening, the man is leaning over her, his tall figure looming like a wall, trapping her in place. His tailored black suit contrasts sharply with the soft, pastel colors of her striped pajamas. The confined space between them feels charged, the air thick with tension she can't quite name. He leans closer, his voice low and sharp, slicing through the silence like a blade. I really underestimated you. We only met once, yet you wanted to seduce the young master of Diguo Corporation? His words carry a blend of accusation and disbelief, heavy with suspicion. His eyes are narrowed, fixed on her like he's trying to read every thought in her head. The cruel assumption stings, leaving her frozen beneath his shadow. Kaka's violet eyes widen, shimmering with shock. Her breath hitches and her lips tremble as she struggles to speak. I am not... Her voice is barely above a whisper, fragile yet desperate to defend herself. She meets his gaze, fierce, cold, and unrelenting, and feels a pang in her chest at being so deeply misunderstood. The camera angle pulls back, showing the full scene. She lies on the bed, hair fanned out like soft rose petals, while he leans over her, his arms braced on either side. Her heart pounds as she stares up at him, both frightened and overwhelmed by the situation. Her lips part slightly as she forces out a single word. You... Her voice trembles, caught between confusion and rising emotion. His presence feels both threatening and intense, as if the room itself is holding its breath. His words cut through the silence like a blade. Does this situation mean you're trying to seduce me? No wonder Bimin Xuan is also interested in you. The tension tightens between them as his gaze lingers on her, sharp and slightly mocking. Kaka's hand instinctively grabs at her collar, her chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. Her heart pounds wildly at his accusation, not because it's true, but because of the closeness between them. The way he looks down at her, the weight of his body looming above, makes her pulse race even faster. He braces his hand on the bed, leaning closer, his face now hovering dangerously close to hers. The small space between them seems to disappear, leaving only the sound of their breaths mingling in the air. Kaka's hair fans out across the mattress like silk, her eyes wide with both fear and disbelief. His dominance fills the room, casting a shadow over her trembling form. She can't look away from him, even if she wants to. Her voice finally breaks through the heavy silence, hurried and desperate to clear the misunderstanding. Please don't listen to Xiao Jing saying nonsense. Minister Biming Xuan and I only discussed work during the meal. Her words tumble out quickly, her eyes pleading for him to believe her. The way he looks at her makes it feel like any explanation might be too late, but she tries anyway. She doesn't want this misunderstanding to grow, especially not with him. Her cheeks flush as she forces herself to speak more boldly. Her fingers clutch the fabric of his suit jacket tightly as she blurts out, "Moreover, he also knows I am your woman, so he can't like me. Boss, trust me." The words spill out instinctively, trying to protect herself from the storm in his eyes. She's blushing furiously not just from embarrassment, but from the weight of her own declaration. The title, Your Woman, hangs in the air, thick with unspoken meaning. A dangerous smile curves at the corner of his lips, but his eyes remain cold and intense. I have never seen you discuss while having a meal before. His voice is low and skeptical, filled with quiet authority that makes her shrink beneath his gaze. There's a hint of jealousy hidden under his calm expression, and she can feel it like a storm about to break. The way he leans closer makes it impossible for her to breathe normally. Every second stretches longer, heavier.
The room falls silent. Her breath hitches as their eyes lock, violet meeting steel blue. The closeness between them blurs everything else. Her cheeks warm and she can hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. His intense gaze doesn't waver, as if trying to read every flicker of emotion on her face. Quiet. The word seems to linger in the air like a whisper neither of them speaks aloud. It's a silence heavy with tension, with everything unspoken pressing down on them. Her trembling hands clutch the edge of her loose pajama shirt, pulling it toward her chest in a weak attempt to cover herself. Her face is flushed, but it's not just embarrassment. It's a mix of fear, confusion, and something else she can't quite name. The fabric slips slightly against her skin, making her movements seem hesitant, fragile. She lowers her gaze, avoiding his eyes as the weight of the situation presses down on her shoulders. Can't let him get angry. The thought echoes in her mind like a frightened whisper. Her hands fidget with the collar of her shirt, her body stiff and nervous. She swallows hard as she hesitantly begins to lower the fabric, exposing the pale curve of her shoulder. Her movements are slow, mechanical, driven not by desire but by fear of provoking him further. The words take off, hover like a silent command, one she never agreed to but feels forced to obey. Then the scene shifts to him. A slight, knowing smile plays at the corners of his lips, his fingers lightly brushing against his chin. His narrowed eyes are filled with quiet amusement, as though watching her every reaction with calculated ease. He's in control, fully aware of the power his presence holds. The smirk that follows is subtle, yet it carries a weight that makes her chest tighten. A low chuckle escapes him, breaking the silence. What are you doing? I didn't say that I would not believe you. His voice is smooth, with a hint of teasing, but there's something in it that makes her freeze. Her shoulders stiffen and she turns slightly away, her flushed face betraying the storm of emotions inside her. His tone might sound light, but the look in his eyes says otherwise. He's enjoying watching her squirm under his gaze.
The atmosphere between them grows tense as he stands behind her, his grip firm on her shoulder. She stiffens at his touch, her heart pounding in her chest. The faint warmth of his hand contrasts with the cool distance she tries to maintain. His presence feels overpowering, pressing into her space as she looks away, cheeks burning. He leans closer, his voice a low murmur laced with amusement. A faint smirk curls at the corner of his lips as he whispers into her ear. But this means, you're trying to offset me about yesterday's business, aren't you? His words carry a teasing weight, as if he already knows the answer, enjoying the way she stiffens beneath his gaze. She doesn't answer, her breath caught in her throat. His head dips lower, brushing against her hair as if claiming the space around her. The warmth of his breath fans against her neck, making her tense up even more. Her soft, uncertain, escapes almost involuntarily, betraying the nervousness she tries to hide. Then, with a sudden movement, he tilts her head up and closes the distance between them. His hand firmly cradles the back of her head, pulling her closer. The kiss lands with unexpected intensity, leaving no room for hesitation. She feels trapped in the moment, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Her eyes squeeze shut as his grip tightens, the intensity of his kiss almost overwhelming. A pain sound escapes her lips, barely audible, but raw. Hurt, she whispers between breaths, her voice trembling with a mixture of confusion and discomfort.
A sharp pulse of pain pierces through her forehead, causing her to wince instinctively. The bandage pressed against the wound feels heavy, throbbing with each beat of her heart. Her brows knit together as a small shiver escapes her, the word pain lingering like an echo in her head. She tries to open her eyes, her breathing uneven. Her hand twitches slightly as she whispers in a trembling voice, my head, it's hurt. The pain is overwhelming, spreading like waves that make her vision blur. Even speaking those few words feels exhausting, her voice frail and weak. Her strength fades and she lies there, completely vulnerable. Her long hair spills across the bed like a pink river, her face pale and strained. She can barely move, her eyelids fluttering as the pain dulls everything else around her. For a moment, she seems to be drifting away from consciousness. He looks down at her, his confident demeanor cracking for just a second. His eyes widen slightly as he takes in the sight of her pain. The word stop echoes silently in his mind, an instinctive reaction to seeing her suffering. There's a flicker of concern hidden beneath his sharp gaze. He gently lowers her onto the bed, his arms supporting her back to make sure she doesn't fall. She lies against him, weak and fragile, her breathing shallow. His usual cold expression softens as he silently watches her, holding her in a way that feels protective, even if he won't admit it aloud. Slowly, he leans forward, pressing a soft, tender kiss on her forehead, right over the bandage. His touch is careful, almost reverent. The unexpected warmth of the gesture makes her eyes widen in surprise, a small gasp caught in her throat. For a moment, time feels still. Her violet eyes widen, glistening with confusion and something else she can't quite name. His closeness feels different now, less intimidating, more human. Apparently he's angry. Could it be a guy like him also mourns something? She wonders silently, her heart beating softly beneath the weight of his unexpected gentleness. His voice softened as he leans closer to her, a calm authority in his tone. Take a break. Dr. Yang will cure the scar on your forehead after a few days, he says. Though his words are matter of fact, there's a hint of worry hidden behind them, a quiet assurance meant to ease her pain. She listens, her heart tightening slightly at the unfamiliar gentleness in his voice. Without warning, his large, warm hand gently covers her eyes. The world around her turns dark, and she freezes for a moment, surprised by the sudden touch. The heat of his palm spreads across her skin, making her breath hitch. It's not a forceful gesture, but protective, as if he wants to shield her from something. Her lips tremble, and a soft whisper escapes. Thanks. The word is barely audible, but it carries the weight of her confusion and fragile gratitude. Beneath his hand, her cheeks flush a delicate pink, her heartbeat thudding louder in the silence between them. He leans in, his face close enough for her to feel his breath brush against her hair. His voice drops, low and steady, but carrying an edge of warning. If this still happens later on, then you know what consequences you will get. The words aren't shouted. They're spoken slowly, deliberately, as if meant to be carved into her memory. She instinctively presses herself closer to him, seeking warmth or maybe safety, though her body trembles slightly. His arm tightens around her, firm but not unkind, pulling her against his chest. Her eyes widen as she whispers softly, I will not. Her vow hangs in the air, fragile but sincere. Her pink hair spills like silk over his arm, wrapping the two of them in a strange, quiet tension. Her soft voice breaks the silence, barely above a whisper. "Boss," she breathes out, the word filled with an unfamiliar tenderness. Curled up against his chest, she feels the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath the crisp fabric of his suit. His eyes are gently closed, and though his expression remains calm, there's a quiet warmth in the way he holds her, as if the world outside doesn't exist for this single fragile moment. His hand instinctively tightens its hold around her as she shifts slightly. Her fingers clutch the fabric of his shirt, seeking the security of his presence. When he hears her voice again, soft and uncertain, he responds with a low hum. A sound that's neither stern nor distanced, but unexpectedly gentle. It feels almost domestic, as if this closeness is something natural between them. Slowly, her eyes flutter open. The faint morning light brushes across her cheeks, making the pink in her hair glow softly. She looks up at him, her heart pounding as reality begins to catch up. His warmth lingers on her skin, steady and grounding. Her violet eyes widen slightly, conflicted by the strange intimacy of the moment. "Last night," she begins hesitantly, her words trembling as they leave her lips. "Does last night was considered—" She trails off, unsure how to finish the question. Her fingers tighten unconsciously around his shirt. The memory of what happened lingers vividly in her mind, tangled between confusion, embarrassment, and something she can't quite name. He slowly opens his eyes, meeting her uncertain gaze with his usual composed expression. But there's something in his tone, a teasing edge wrapped in calmness, as he asks, "Consider what?" The question hangs in the air, effortlessly turning the tension into something heavier, something she can't ignore. She can't tell whether he's serious or just enjoying watching her squirm. Her heart pounds rapidly as she lifts her gaze to meet his. Her hands clutch at the fabric of his suit jacket, the warmth of his body surrounding her. Hesitation flickers in her wide eyes, but the question tumbles out of her lips anyway, soft, trembling, and unsure. "Was considered sleep with you a night?" The air feels suddenly heavier, her words lingering between them like a fragile thread. He leans back against the pillow, one brow slightly raised, his sharp eyes half-lidded in a calm, almost arrogant manner. His thoughts are written clearly in his expression. "She still wants to oppose sleeping with me," he muses silently, his gaze fixed on her flustered face. There's a hint of amusement there, hidden beneath his composed exterior. Her face burns with doubt and confusion. Lying against his chest, she watches him, searching for an answer he doesn't seem eager to give. Her fingers tighten slightly against his shirt as she whispers again, "Boss?" The morning light filters through the window, making the scene feel strangely intimate. Too close, too real. His voice cuts through the silence, steady and firm. "I stood all night last night. If you don't want to rest," he says with his eyes narrowing slightly, "then do some work with me. Avoid wasting time." His tone is neither cold nor warm. It carries the weight of someone used to being obeyed, to having his words accepted without question. Her eyelids drop as exhaustion settles over her. "My head is dizzy," she murmurs weakly, pressing closer against him as if seeking comfort. "I want to rest." Her voice fades at the end, fragile and soft, contrasting sharply with his composed demeanor. For a moment, her vulnerability fills the room. Fragile, like something he could break, but doesn't. His sharp violet eyes flick open, alert and intense. The sound leaves his lips with quiet force, breaking the still air of the room. There's a subtle shift in his expression, not quite surprise, not quite annoyance, something caught between restraint and curiosity. His gaze naturally falls toward the girl nestled close to him, her soft pink hair spilling over the pillow like silk. Her eyes lower as her thoughts race. Could it be
he stood all night? The realization slowly settles in her chest, making her feel strangely guilty. If she had known earlier, maybe she would have given him half the bed, even if just grudgingly. Her fingers curl slightly against the blanket, her face softening as guilt and embarrassment flicker across it. Confusion clouds her violet eyes, her brows slightly knitting together. The thought of him standing all night by her bed doesn't quite make sense. It seems both ridiculous and unexpectedly kind. Her lips part softly, and her cheeks grow warm, unsure how to process this mix of emotions swirling inside her. The thing? Did he really stand all night by my bed? Her inner voice trembles at the thought, replaying his earlier words in her mind. The idea feels both absurd and touching, like something only he would do, stubborn and unyielding, yet oddly gentle in his own way. Without realizing it, she has already leaned closer to him. The morning light seeps into the room, painting everything in soft gold. His arm is still wrapped securely around her, his expression calm as if protecting her came naturally to him. Her breathing evens out, matching his, and for a fleeting moment, the world feels quiet, as though their two heartbeats are the only sounds that matter.
As the scene opens, a blinding light spreads across the sky, as if announcing something too shocking to accept. The words echo like a whisper in the air. It's hard to believe this. The sky is calm, but the atmosphere is charged with tension, leaving the reader on edge. Something significant is about to unfold. The story shifts to a peaceful campus with grand brick buildings basking under a clear blue sky. Students whisper among themselves, their conversations buzzing with curiosity and doubt. Tank Feifei brought Bei Mingye's business card to come here to join in the film. Is she qualified? One voice questions. The name carries weight, and the mystery around her arrival deepens. Two voices gossip in the background, their words dripping with awe and envy. She is the principal's child, the most beautiful girl in the school. Don't you see how the boys are all fascinated by her? Another voice interrupts, nervous but intrigued. The thing is, I saw her and Bu Chu hugging each other that day. Their whispers filled the leafy path where sunlight dances through the trees, setting the stage for her appearance. And then a hush falls over the crowd. Shh, don't say any more. She's coming. The murmurs vanish into silence as she steps forward, her crimson hair flowing softly in the breeze. Her light blue off-shoulder dress glimmers with delicate sparkles, making her seem almost ethereal. Every eye turns toward her, captivated. Her footsteps fall gracefully onto the tiled path, each step elegant and measured. The hem of her dress sways lightly, reflecting the light with every movement. The sparkling aura surrounding her gives the impression that she's not just entering a courtyard, she's entering a spotlight. A girl with soft pink hair and wide violet eyes gasps softly. Her surprise breaks the silence. "Kaka?" she blurts out, unable to mask her reaction. The unexpected encounter sends a ripple through the crowd, their whispers stirring again. Standing opposite the red-haired beauty, the pink-haired girl faces her, dressed simply in a light blue shirt dress, tied at the waist. Her expression is a mix of confusion and shock. The contrast between them is striking, one dazzling like a star, the other pure and gentle like the morning sky. And in that quiet, charged moment, the story shifts. Two paths are about to cross. Under the warm light of the afternoon, the two girls face each other. The pink-haired girl lowers her gaze slightly, her voice soft
but steady as she gathers the courage to speak. "I came to ask, are you going to D1 tonight?" she says. Her tone carries a hint of hope. "If yes, then can you take me along?" Her eyes glimmer faintly, searching for a sign of agreement from the red-haired girl standing opposite her, whose expression remains calm but distant. The red-haired girl raises her hand gently, her posture elegant and slightly dismissive. "No," she replies softly, her voice almost polite but firm. "I still have to go to school. You should go by yourself." The space between them grows heavier. The rejection, though spoken softly, lands with quiet finality. A flicker of frustration passes over the red-haired girl's face as she turns slightly away. Her thoughts burst out like a sharp sting. What are you pretending for? If not for Mr. Beiming, who would even care about you? The words aren't spoken aloud, but they echo powerfully, cutting through the air between them. She walks away briskly, her heels clicking against the ground as bitterness flashes across her features. The pink-haired girl remains standing, silent but tense. Behind the redhead's retreating figure, her cruel thoughts linger. The kind of cheap woman like her? Sooner or later, Mr. Beiming will get bored. She even thinks she's a unique item. It's ridiculous. The hostility in her inner voice reveals a jealousy buried deep within. The next scene opens outside a hospital entrance. Bright lights illuminate the building as two girls step out together. The pink-haired girl turns to her companion with a soft smile. "Xiang, thank you for going with me to get the medicine," she says sincerely. Her gratitude is warm, contrasting sharply with the tension from earlier. The two girls walk side by side, their steps light. The other girl responds casually, "You're welcome. But what happened in the last meeting? Why was the leader just targeting you?" The gentle afternoon breeze plays with their hair as they exit the hospital, a more personal conversation unfolding between them. The pink-haired girl lowers her eyes, a troubled look clouding her bright expression. "He wanted me to talk to Bei Mingye to help Tang Fei get the second role," she admits slowly. Her words are quiet, but the weight behind them is undeniable. It's a request she clearly resents. Her face reflects the unease she feels. Her fingers tighten slightly at her side as she confides in her friend. This isn't just about a role. It's about pressure, about being used as a bridge to someone powerful. Her expression hardens a little, a sign of quiet resistance forming within her. Her friend, Shang, reacts immediately. Her blue eyes widen in disbelief, anger flashing through them. "What? The second role? Why would they dare to think of this?" she bursts out, her voice full of indignation. The sudden outburst breaks the calmness of the moment like a sharp crack of thunder. Shang clenches her fists, her anger visible not just in her voice, but in the way her entire posture stiffens. "Why would they dare to think of something like this?" she repeats, fuming. The pink-haired girl watches her, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and unease. Though this fight isn't Shang's burden, she's angry on her behalf, and that means everything. The cool tone of the evening light filters through the car window as the dark-haired man sits in the back seat, his expression calm but firm. His voice, low and controlled, carries a quiet authority. "The driver will come to pick you up after school," he says, leaving no room for refusal. The pink-haired girl stands outside, facing him. Even though his words are simple, they echo in her chest with a quiet weight she can't shake off. Her thoughts swirl in silence. "Just now, I told him he didn't need to send the driver for me. Maybe he finally got the message," she muses. Her violet eyes lower, a shadow passing over them.
Despite her calm exterior, she feels something complicated blooming inside her chest, something she can't quite name. The next day after school, the summer sunlight filters through the trees as the two girls step out of the school gates. Then, suddenly, a sleek black car comes into view, parked not far away. The pink-haired girl stiffens immediately, her breath catching for a second. Her companion turns toward her, curious. She gathers herself, turning to her friend with a careful tone. Xiong, actually, I have an appointment with Minister Bei Ming Juan to discuss the investment money, she explains. Her voice is steady, but her heart beats a little faster. This isn't the full truth, and she knows it. Her friend's eyes widen in surprise. Why didn't you say this earlier? She exclaims, half amused and half scolding. I'll go first then. You go alone. Be careful. Her words are light, trusting, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. As Shang walks away, her figure shrinking into the sunlit path, the pink-haired girl turns toward the car, guilt tugging gently at her chest. Shang, please forgive me, she thinks as she raises her hand slightly. I can't tell you the truth. The wind brushes her dress lightly, as if carrying away her unspoken words. She approaches the car slowly. A man in a black suit pushes the door open slightly, his voice curt and commanding. Get in the car. Her heart skips a beat at the familiar tone, sharp, cold, and a little too close. Her eyes widen. He came here personally. For a moment, the world seems to still. She hadn't expected this. Not him. Not like this. The interior of the car is silent and sleek. He sits on one side, composed and elegant in his tailored suit, typing something on his laptop as if nothing has happened. She sits stiffly on the other side, sneaking glances at him. Quiet, the moment seems to say. Neither of them speaks, yet the silence between them is louder than words. Finally, she breaks the silence in her heart, not daring to say it aloud. Shang definitely wanted to come with me to the room to get the medicine. I was afraid she'd find out about what's between us. Her gaze drifts to the man sitting next to her. He remains composed, unaware, or perhaps perfectly aware of the turmoil in her chest.
Inside the car, the atmosphere feels heavy and quiet. He turns slightly, his voice low but firm, and asks, "Is there anything between me and you?" The unexpected question lands like a stone in the still air, leaving her momentarily frozen in her seat. She blinks, her eyes widening as thoughts whirl inside her head. What's wrong with him, she wonders. Why does he look so serious? Is he angry again? The tension between them thickens, making her heartbeat quicken in confusion. He tilts his head toward her, his sharp gaze locking onto her face. His jaw tightens as he asks coldly, "You're really scared of me?" His question isn't just about fear. It's a challenge, a test of something unspoken between them. Her hands tighten on her lap, her eyes lowering slightly as she admits softly, "Yes, very scared." Even as she says it, she feels a strange mix of vulnerability and unease. She doesn't know how he'll react. For a moment, he's silent. Then the corner of his lips curves into a faint smile. "Really?" he replies, his tone almost amused. But behind that smile is something else, a cold, unreadable edge. Inside her mind, the words echo sharply. This guy is heartless. Even his smile is full of coldness and apathy. She stares at him, feeling that familiar chill creep into her chest. This wasn't a warm smile. It was dangerous. Her face remains calm, but her eyes reflect the weight of her thoughts. She tries to stay composed, trying not to let him see how uneasy she truly feels in this moment. Then his voice cuts through the air again. "Come here." The command is soft but firm, leaving no room for refusal. She stiffens, unsure whether to move or not, but his gaze is unrelenting.
Before she can react, his hand reaches out and pulls her closer to him. The sudden movement takes her by surprise, and she feels the heat of his grip at her waist. The distance between them vanishes in an instant. She stares up at him with wide eyes, panic flickering in her expression. "Mr. Beiming, I accidentally touched you," she blurts out nervously. I told you, you won't make our relationship public." Her words tremble in the space between them, as if trying to shield herself from his overwhelming presence.
The girl finds herself suddenly pulled closer to him, her wide violet eyes staring up at his calm yet intimidating face. Her heart pounds as the space between them disappears, her breath catching as she realizes how near they are. His presence feels overwhelming, both captivating and frightening at the same time. His sharp eyes narrow, voice carrying a dangerous calmness as he tilts his head slightly. "Did I say that to you from when?" he asks coldly, the weight of his words pressing heavily into the air. The shift in his tone makes her chest tighten with unease. His face hardens into a serious, almost emotionless expression. The playful smirk that sometimes lingers at the corner of his lips has vanished completely, replaced by an intensity that makes it hard to look away. His piercing gaze locks onto her as if demanding an answer she doesn't have. Leaning closer, his tall frame shadows over hers. His voice lowers, deep and smooth, as he whispers, "You're really afraid of me or don't want to be with me?" His proximity leaves her frozen, her heart fluttering in both fear and confusion. She tries to steady her breathing as her thoughts race. That's scared, don't want, but this kind of saying. His words replay over and over in her mind, twisting everything she thought she understood about their relationship. Flustered and cornered, she stammers out her words. How could you know I am here? How long have you been here?" Her voice trembles slightly, revealing both surprise and uneasiness. She's desperately trying to divert his attention. Her lips curve into a small, uneasy smile as she shifts her gaze away. She knows she's deflecting the question, but it's the only defense she has left. She can't meet his intense stare head-on, not when he's this close. His hand gently but firmly cups her cheek, tilting her face back toward him. A faint, knowing smile plays on his lips as he replies softly, "Not for long." His touch is warm, yet it carries an undeniable sense of control that makes her shiver. She stares at him in disbelief as he adds casually, "Just as waited more than an hour?" His tone is light, almost nonchalant, but the meaning of his words hits her like a wave. He's been here all this time, waiting for her. Her eyes widen in shock as she processes what he said. Could it be he actually went to school to wait here? The thought makes her heart skip a beat. She doesn't know whether to feel touched or terrified by the depth of his persistence. The car door closes softly, sealing them in an elegant, quiet space. He sits beside her, his sharp suit perfectly pressed, expression firm and unyielding. With a low, commanding voice, he says only one word, "Drive!" The air between them stiffens instantly, leaving her to glance sideways at him nervously. His authority is absolute, and she knows it. Her hands tighten slightly on her lap as she leans forward, looking up at him with pleading eyes. "Sir, all my books are in the dorm. Can I sleep in the dorm tonight?" Her voice is soft, but beneath it is a quiet desperation. She's trying to hold her ground, to make him understand, even just a little. Her pink hair falls over her shoulder as she unconsciously reaches toward him, tugging lightly at the edge of his sleeve. It's a small gesture, gentle, uncertain, like a quiet attempt to bridge the distance between them. Her heart beats faster as she waits for his response.
He doesn't open his eyes. His jaw tightens ever so slightly, and a cold wave seems to radiate from his still figure. The word hangs heavy in the air, coldly. Even without speaking, his rejection is clear. His silence is louder than any refusal. But she refuses to give up so easily. Her eyes brighten with determination as she explains. I have a test next Tuesday. I want to go back to study for exams. Her voice trembles at the edges, not from fear, but from hope. She wants him to understand that this isn't just an excuse. It matters to her. The car is silent again. She calls softly, Sir? He keeps his eyes closed, unreadable. Only the faintest furrow between his brows hints at the thoughts behind that calm mask. She waits, but the silence stretches on. Her shoulders slowly lower as her lips press together. A small, bitter smile touches her face. He was sleeping, she thinks. Maybe I was thinking too much. How could he care about my feelings? The word disappointed cuts through her chest like a quiet whisper of her own heart. Outside, the car speeds through a bright intersection. The sun washes over the city streets. Life moves on in its usual rhythm, uncaring of the quiet storm brewing inside the car. Finally, his voice cuts through the silence like a blade. Go to school. His tone is sharp but decisive. There's no hesitation in it. For him, the decision is final, like a king granting permission from his throne. Her eyes widen in surprise. Then, almost instantly, they light up with joy. Thanks, sir, she exclaims, a bright smile blooming on her face. He glances at her, and a faint, almost hidden smile tugs at the corner of his lips. The heavy air in the car slowly melts into something softer.
His voice was calm, but firm, leaving no room for negotiation. I only gave you 15 minutes to get your books, he said, his sharp eyes glinting with a quiet authority. Then I'll personally go to the dorm to find you. The words hit her like a warning bell, steady, confident, and impossible to ignore. He wasn't joking. He never was. She instinctively curled her hands near her chest, feeling a mix of panic and disbelief. There was no escaping his control, not even over something as small as this. Her heart skipped a beat as her violet eyes widened in shock. You want me to carry books and go to D1 with you? She blurted out, unable to hide the surprise in her voice. The idea of being dragged along, books in hand, to wherever he decided, it was overwhelming. She clutched at her shirt collar, unsure whether to laugh at the absurdity or tremble at his persistence. He glanced at his watch, utterly composed, and replied coolly, There are still 14 minutes and 50 seconds. It wasn't just a statement. It was a declaration of his unshakable control over time, over the situation, over her. Meanwhile, she remained frozen in the car seat, her pulse quickening. He was counting the seconds like a commander on the battlefield, and she was the one caught in his command. Without another word, she pushed the car door open with a determined click. The wind rushed past her as she stepped out, her hair and dress flowing behind like a soft ribbon. Her steps were light, but quick, and her clenched fist pressed against her chest betrayed her agitation. She wasn't going to sit there helplessly. Not this time. The car door shut behind her with a sharp close. Her skirt lifted slightly in the breeze as she moved with a mix of frustration and urgency. The sun caught the strands of her pink hair, making them shimmer faintly. She didn't even look back. Whatever this man wanted, she wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing her flustered. The man standing nearby blinked in silent shock. His usually calm expression faltered for a second as he stared at her determined figure walking away. This attitude, he thought, his brows drawing together. She's angry? I just thought she would never go against Mr. Bei Ming. He had expected her to obey quietly, as she always did, but this time, something in her had changed. Inside the car, a hand held a half-burned cigar, a thin ribbon of smoke curling lazily into the air. The glowing tip flickered faintly in the dim light, each breath of smoke twisting into the space between them. It was the kind of silence that didn't need words. Heavy, calculated, and dangerous. He leaned casually against the leather seat, the corner of his mouth lifting into a faint, cold smile. His posture was relaxed, almost too relaxed, like a predator waiting for its prey to walk back into the trap. Through the slightly opened window, the smoke drifted outside, but his gaze remained fixed forward, calm, unreadable, and commanding. No matter how far she tried to run, she couldn't escape the fact that he was always one step ahead.
The morning sun poured gently over the towering skyscrapers, painting the city in a warm golden hue. The sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with soft white clouds, as if the day itself promised something extraordinary. The glass buildings reflected the light like mirrors, standing tall and elegant, a perfect stage for the unfolding story. A sleek black luxury car glided smoothly along the sunlit road, its polished surface gleaming. The license plate flashed under the sunlight as it passed through the heart of the city. Tall buildings framed the streets, and fresh green trees lined the sidewalks, blending modernity with nature. This was no ordinary drive. It felt like the beginning of an important night. Inside the car, the atmosphere was charged with a subtle tension. In the front seat, the driver remained silent and focused, his face expressionless. In the back, a girl with pink hair sat quietly, her eyes slightly widened in surprise. Didn't expect that Bei Ming Ye could actively invite Tang Feifei to D1, so tonight I don't need to, she thought, a mix of confusion and unease stirring within her. Meanwhile, Tang Feifei, in a delicate blue dress, leaned closer to the man sitting beside her, Bei Ming Ye. His sharp suit and composed expression made him appear unshakable. Without warning, Tang Feifei leaned in, her lips brushing his cheek in a sudden, daring move. The caption echoed softly in the air. Sneaky kiss. Her cheeks flushed pink with a mixture of excitement and mischief, while his expression remained calm, his eyes fixed ahead, hiding whatever emotions lay beneath the surface. She then looked at him with sparkling eyes, clutching his arm gently. "Mr. Beiming, can I call you Ye?" she asked in a sweet, almost playful tone. The confidence in her voice contrasted with the subtle vulnerability in her gaze, as if the small request could bring her closer to him.
Across from them, the pink-haired girl watched silently, her hands gripping her seatbelt as Tang Feifei nestled against Bei Ming Ye's arm. Look. The single word hovered in the air, capturing the quiet moment of observation. Bei Ming Ye sat tall and composed, as if entirely accustomed to such attention. A small, knowing smile tugged at the corner of Bei Ming Ye's lips. It wasn't a smile of warmth, but one of quiet amusement, mysterious perhaps, even a little dangerous. His eyes glinted, revealing nothing and everything at once. The car came to a stop in front of a modern, glass-fronted cafe. The outdoor seating was bathed in the soft shade of leafy trees, the golden sunlight filtering through. Two men were already seated at a table, their figures calm and composed, as if waiting for the next chapter to begin. Elsewhere, voices floated like whispers. "Maybe you were mistaken. Ye is the same as before. He's never been honest with women." So, the girls were brought to Diwan. Would that be different? The words hung in the air like a quiet warning, one that could change everything. Inside the cafe, two men sat across from each other, sipping their coffee. One of them spoke with a calm, almost cynical tone. "The girls beside him are all the same, nothing else." It was a truth wrapped in sharp edges, a glimpse into the world behind Bei Ming Ye's composed smile.
In the quiet cafe, one of the silver-haired men lifted his cup of tea to his lips, a faint smile curving on his face. His voice, calm but sharp,
broke the stillness. But the person sitting in the front is very different. There was something knowing in his tone, as if he had noticed a detail no one else had. His gaze was steady, hinting at a secret he wasn't yet ready to reveal. The sun began to sink beneath the horizon, its golden rays stretching across the sky. The clouds glowed in warm shades of orange and pink, soft and almost dreamlike. It was a sunset that signaled the end of one chapter and the quiet beginning of another. Nestled between rolling hills, a grand modern villa stood bathed in the last light of the setting sun. The golden glow wrapped around the house like a gentle embrace, casting long shadows and highlighting the sleek, elegant architecture. The place radiated wealth in silence, an isolated world of its own. As the sunlight deepened, the villa's grand terrace came into view. Elegant tables and chairs were arranged perfectly, as if awaiting important guests. The warm lights from the villa illuminated the patio softly, blending seamlessly with the natural beauty around it. Everything about this place spoke of exclusivity and quiet power. Inside the villa, a lavish dinner table was set with a feast of delicately arranged dishes. At the head of the table sat Bei Mingyi, his posture composed and commanding. His expression was unreadable, but the air around him felt heavy with control. Behind him stood the silent driver, ever the shadow in his world. On the opposite side, the pink-haired girl entered the room timidly, her steps light but uncertain as she faced the man who held all the power here.
Tang Fei was already seated gracefully, her lips curled in a small, self-satisfied smile. The pink-haired girl froze at the sight, startled by the ease and boldness with which the other woman had taken the seat. Occupy seats. The words echoed mockingly in the room. Her heart clenched slightly. She hadn't expected this brazenness. A swirl of emotions crossed the pink-haired girl's face, confusion, shock, and a touch of disbelief. How could she occupy the seat so openly, she thought, her eyes wide and shimmering with uncertainty, fixed on the other woman. In this elegant dining room, she suddenly felt out of place. Before she could gather herself, Bei Mingye's voice rang out, cool and unyielding. "Who allows you there? Come to stand here." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to make the air feel heavier. The red-haired woman sat unfazed, while the pink-haired girl stiffened under his commanding tone. His sharp gaze settled on her, his thoughts as cold as the evening outside. This girl, she doesn't know how to care about her position. If so, just stand there. His words, though unspoken, carried weight. There was no room for mistakes in his world, not from her. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced a polite smile as she stepped forward, lowering her head. "Sir, let me help you pour the soup," she said softly, trying to bridge the distance between their worlds. His lips curved faintly at her gesture, not with warmth, but with quiet amusement, as if testing how far she would go to please him. The girl's hands trembled slightly as she leaned forward, carefully pouring the hot soup into the porcelain bowl before him. Her movements were delicate, almost reverent, as if each gesture carried the weight of unspoken expectations. He sat in silence, his black suit sharp against the warm tones of the dining room. Though his expression revealed little, the air between them felt taut, charged with unspoken power and tension. The red-haired woman's lips curved into a bright, self-assured smile as she leaned toward Bei Mingye. "Yeah, taste it," she said cheerfully, her voice ringing lightly through the air. She pushed the bowl of soup toward him with practiced ease, claiming his attention with the confidence of someone who knew her place. Across the table, the pink-haired girl lowered her gaze, the faint sting of being overshadowed blooming quietly in her chest. Bei Mingye's eyes narrowed, his face hardening into a mask of icy authority. "Meng Qi?" he called out coldly, his voice slicing through the warm air of the dining room. Even without raising his tone, the weight of his displeasure was unmistakable. The warmth from a moment ago vanished, replaced by an unsettling chill that silenced the room. A well-dressed butler stepped forward swiftly, his voice calm but firm. "Where is the maid? Change another pair of chopsticks for Mr. Bei Ming," he commanded. It wasn't just about etiquette. It was a statement of hierarchy. The pink-haired girl stiffened slightly, realizing how carefully every line was drawn in this house and how easily someone could be reminded of their place. The butler then turned toward the red-haired woman, gesturing toward another chair. "Lady, your seat is here," he said with polite insistence. But she tilted her head, her lips curving into a shy but stubborn smile. "This seat is good too," she murmured softly. Her tone carried a touch of defiance, wrapped in sweetness, as though testing just how far she could bend the rules without consequence. A sly smile curled on the red-haired woman's lips, her eyes glinting with arrogance. In her mind, she was already the future lady of the Bei Ming family, someone untouchable. "A servant who dares to treat me like that?" she thought with disdain. "Doesn't he fear the punishment of the future mistress of this house?" The confidence in her tone was chilling, as if she already owned everything in sight. Across the room, Tang Fei brought her fingers to her lips, failing to hold back a small laugh. The scene amused her more than it should have. She hadn't expected anyone to openly oppose Bei Ming Ye's orders. It was something few dared to do. Maybe he's surprised too, she thought, eyes glimmering with the mix of boldness and quiet mockery. Her expression was playful, but her heart beat fast beneath the calm exterior. Bei Ming Ye's sharp eyes shifted toward her, his gaze lingering on her slender figure as she stood there in that simple blue dress. His jaw tightened, ever so slightly. There was something in her defiance that unsettled the usual order, something that stirred the air between them. Without warning, his hand shot out and closed firmly around her wrist. The grip was strong but not cruel. Enough to catch her off guard, enough to make her freeze. The world around them seemed to pause for a heartbeat, the tension between them winding tighter like a drawn bowstring. Her eyes widened as she stumbled closer to him, shock flashing across her face. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice trembling slightly, not with fear, but with confusion and rising emotion. He didn't look away. Instead, a faint, unreadable smile tugged at the corners of his lips, as if he alone knew where this moment was headed. And then, almost effortlessly, he pulled her into his lap, his arm wrapped securely around her waist, holding her as if he decided something she hadn't been given the chance to refuse. Her breath hitched, and the warmth of his body pressed against hers was undeniable. Her heart pounded wildly as she stared up at him, unsure if she should push him away or listen to the strange fluttering in her chest. The distance between them had vanished, both physically and dangerously so. The air between them was tense, charged with a quiet intensity. The girl, with soft pink hair cascading down her shoulders, looked up at the man in front of her. His sharp gaze bore into hers, leaving no room for hesitation. Leaning closer, his voice was low but firm, almost commanding. "Continue. Put food in mouth," he ordered, his words broken yet resolute. The closeness of their faces made her heart race, unsure whether to be flustered or afraid. His tone wasn't gentle, but the way his eyes softened ever so slightly revealed a trace of something else, something unspoken. The elegant atmosphere of the room was briefly interrupted as a well-dressed gentleman stepped forward, his posture straight and respectful. With a graceful gesture, he pulled out a chair and addressed the pink-haired girl with utmost politeness. "Lady, please sit here," he said, his voice warm and welcoming. The girl stood there, slightly taken aback by the sudden attention. Meanwhile, from behind, a pair of crimson eyes burned with a mixture of shock and displeasure, silently watching the scene unfold. The red-haired girl clenched her fists, unable to contain the storm of frustration rising within her. Her voice trembled with both anger and desperation as she pointed toward the pink-haired girl. You see, he treated me like this, she cried out, the words spilling from her lips as if accusing the world itself. Everyone's eyes turned to her, but the person she wanted a reaction from remained composed, indifferent. Her voice echoed in the air, but no one came to comfort her. The pink-haired girl leaned forward gently, holding out a piece of food with delicate chopsticks. Her expression was calm, even tender, as if this simple act meant something more. The man, with his dark hair falling slightly over his forehead, lowered his head and accepted the bite without a word. For a fleeting moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. The soft rustle of their breaths mingled in the quiet space. Though no confessions were spoken, the warmth in the gesture was louder than any words. The red-haired girl's heart ached as she watched from afar. Her crimson eyes shimmered with confusion and sorrow. "Why is he so cold to me like this?" she whispered to herself, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. She couldn't comprehend how the man who once looked at her so warmly now stared at another with that same intensity. Her chest tightened, and a single word echoed in her mind like a sharp stab: stupor, as she stood frozen in place, unable to look away from the two of them.
Her hands trembled slightly as she held the chopsticks, eyes wide and pleading. She looked up at the man sitting across from her, his sharp gaze softened by the faintest hint of amusement. "Sir, can we eat rice?" she asked in a small, almost begging voice. He didn't answer right away. Instead, his lips curved upward, the kind of smile that made her heartbeat quicken, calm, unreadable, and a little dangerous. His elegant posture never faltered. Leaning slightly forward, his voice was smooth and controlled. A subtle smirk traced his lips. "Of course I'm still eating it," he replied, each word slow and deliberate. It wasn't just about the food. There was something in his tone that made the room feel smaller, warmer, and harder to breathe in. She could only stare, unsure whether to trust his smile or fear it. The air grew heavier between them. The girl lowered her head shyly, her pink hair brushing softly against his chest. His lips curved into a quiet, knowing smile, the kind that carried more meaning than words ever could. She didn't need to see his face to feel his control over the moment. She could hear it in the way he breathed, steady and close. The room was quiet except for the faint clink of glass. The plates and wine glasses sat untouched now, a still life of a meal long finished. After meal. The scene was almost peaceful, but that silence was deceptive. It wasn't the end of the night. It was only the beginning of something else. "Sir, you have just finished eating," she stammered, her voice small against the weight of his calm, deliberate movements. He turned toward her slowly, his eyes narrowing with that same quiet intensity she had come to know too well. Her hair fluttered behind her, as if the very air around them responded to his presence. Her feet left the ground, her light blue dress swaying as his strong arms lifted her effortlessly. The girl's hands instinctively gripped at his chest, heart pounding in confusion and panic. She could feel the strength in his movements, decisive, unshakable, as if he had already decided everything. "Finish eating, then take a bath. Of course, that's right." His voice was casual, almost as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But to her, those words carried a weight that made her pulse quicken and her breath falter. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. The red-haired girl's voice rang sharply through the room. Her hands shot forward, her entire posture stiff with shock. The sight before her was something she had not expected, something that burned in her chest like betrayal.
Mr. Beiming's presence filled the room with quiet authority. Standing tall in his black suit, his sharp gaze pinned her in place. Mr. Beiming doesn't like others calling his name. You better respect it, or else he won't be happy with it. Someone warned coldly. The red-haired girl clenched her fists. His name, even his name, was something that belonged only to him. And now she understood. Defying him was not an option. She stood close to him, the space between them nearly non-existent. Her fiery red hair cascaded down in waves, brushing lightly against his suit. Though she tried to keep her composure, the air between them was thick, charged with tension she could neither name nor escape. His calm and upright figure only made her heart beat louder. Night had fallen completely. The sky stretched wide and dark, scattered with countless tiny stars. The world outside seemed quiet and distant, as if everything beyond this moment no longer mattered. It was the kind of night where every breath felt sharper, every thought heavier. Soft, faint light filled the room, wrapping everything in a gentle glow. The elegant curves of the hanging lights traced delicate patterns through the air, falling like ribbons of moonlight. The silence was not empty, it was waiting, quietly holding its breath. The two figures lay on the bed, surrounded by a soft haze of light. The curtain swayed gently, as if even the air was holding its breath at what was unfolding. His body hovered over hers, the world outside fading into the night as their reality narrowed into this single room, this single heartbeat. Mr. Bay has just finished eating. That would be no good, she whispered with a flustered smile, her cheeks faintly pink under the dim light. Her voice trembled, caught between embarrassment and a strange warmth that spread through her chest. His gaze, however, remained steady, unyielding. She lay on the bed, looking up at him, her pink hair spread around her like a soft cloud, framing her delicate face. In her wide, violet eyes, confusion and nervous anticipation intertwined. She didn't know what would happen next, but his presence was overwhelming, and she could hardly look away. He leaned closer, their faces only inches apart. His hand brushed against hers, their fingers intertwining as if the moment itself demanded silence. A subtle smile played on his lips, a smile that held both power and certainty. She stared back, her heart racing, unsure whether to resist or to surrender to the pull between them. No, that would be better, he replied, his voice low and decisive. The words fell like a final verdict, firm and unquestionable. She blinked in surprise, caught off guard by the sudden intensity behind his calm expression. You've been following me for a long time, and you still don't know how to be docile. His voice was smooth, but it carried something unspoken, something that made her chest tighten and her breath quicken. He wasn't simply asking, he was reminding her of the world they shared. His hand pressed against the bed as he hovered over her, her black tie hanging loosely. She could feel the nearness of him, like a storm pressing against her skin. Her body stiffened, but her eyes stayed locked on his, drawn into the quiet gravity that surrounded him.
Fear flickered in the girl's wide violet eyes as she lay on the bed, her long pink hair fanning out around her like a silken halo. Her delicate fingers clutched at her dress collar as she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Sir, please don't like that. You just finished eating. That would be no good. Moreover, you haven't taken a bath. Your body is very dirty." The air between them felt heavy, the tension clear as her vulnerability was laid bare. Her arms folded tightly across her chest as though to shield herself, her soft curls spilling over her shoulders. The shadows emphasized her unease, and the faint tremor in her posture revealed more than words ever could.
Though she tried to appear composed, her body betrayed her fear. A confident smile curved his lips as he looked down at her. His sharp gaze held a mix of amusement and intent, as if her desperate words were nothing more than a small obstacle in his path. He leaned closer, his voice low and smooth, a dangerous calm surrounding him. His voice carried a teasing edge as he responded, "Are you reminding me to take a shower?" "Sure, take a shower, together." The implication hung in the air, making her heart race with dread. His smirk deepened, satisfied with the effect his words had on her. Without giving her a chance to escape, he swept her up into his arms effortlessly. Her eyes widened, panic and embarrassment flashing across her face, while he only smiled, a calm, almost predatory grin. She clutched at his chest instinctively, as if trying to push him away, but his grip was firm and unwavering. His hand rested possessively around her waist, pressing her slender figure against him. The folds of her dress swayed softly, but her breath quickened. The gap between them had vanished entirely, and all she could hear was the pounding of her heart. In the bright, pristine bathroom, she turned nervously toward him, clutching the edge of her towel. "Sir, Dr. Yang said that I shouldn't let my wound touch the water." Her voice was hesitant, fragile, hoping to appeal to reason as a way out of the situation. Her slender figure was wrapped in a pale pink towel as she stood by the shower door. Her back was slightly turned, her long hair cascading down her spine like a waterfall. Her eyes darted to the side, filled with uncertainty, as if waiting for him to either step back or come closer. Meanwhile, he unbuttoned his shirt with deliberate slowness, revealing a well-defined chest beneath. His expression remained composed and intense, every movement exuding quiet dominance. The tension in the room grew heavier with each button undone. She gasped softly, her face heating up in a rush of flustered emotion. Her hands flew up to cover her face, but it couldn't hide the deep pink spreading across her cheeks. Her heart pounded uncontrollably as she squeezed her eyes shut, overwhelmed by the moment.
Her slender fingers slowly rose to cover her face, hiding the heat that had spread across her cheeks. The warm steam of the bathroom clung to her skin as her long pink hair cascaded down her shoulders, sticking slightly to the damp air. She could feel the pounding of her heart against her palms. She had no idea how to respond. Everything around her felt too close, too fast, too overwhelming. From behind the curtain of steam, his voice reached her, low and unyielding. "So, be docile. Don't move. I'll help you bathe." The words slipped into the humid air like a command she couldn't refuse. His presence filled the small space, his tall figure blurred behind the mist, but she could feel his gaze, sharp, unwavering, leaving no room to retreat. Her bare feet shifted nervously against the black tiles. The steam wrapped around their legs, blurring the distance between them. His steps were steady, deliberate, while hers faltered slightly, as if part of her wanted to flee, but the other part was frozen in place. The soft sound of water dripping echoed around them like a heartbeat. "Sir." Her voice trembled in protest, but it was swallowed almost entirely by the rush of water. She took a step back, but he followed without hesitation, closing the space between them. The steam curled around their bodies like a veil, making her pulse quicken with each breath she drew. "Don't..." She gasped softly, the protest falling apart before it was fully formed. Somewhere inside, she was screaming at herself to stop trembling, but her body refused to listen. Meanwhile, another thought burned in her mind. "This cheater, he clearly said he would let me read and study for the exam tonight." Her inner complaint sounded childish even to herself, but she couldn't help it. They sat side by side on the couch later, the quiet of the room starkly contrasting the heat from earlier. He wore a black robe with golden trim, slightly open at the chest, the lamplight tracing sharp lines over his collarbone. His attention was fixed on his laptop, his expression unreadable. She, on the other hand, clutched her textbook with both hands, her pink nightdress peeking out beneath a thin robe. Her violet eyes were narrowed ever so slightly in irritation as she thought, "He's so annoying." Then, a sudden warmth brushed against her side. A hand, his hand, slid against her waist, firm yet unhurried. The touch made her breath catch. The book nearly slipped from her grasp. She didn't have to look to know it was him. The sensation of his skin against the thin fabric burned into her mind. She turned her head in surprise as her eyes widened as a small sound escaped her lips. Huh? Her heart raced. His hand. Very warm. This feels very strange, she thought, her mind spinning at the unfamiliar sensation blooming inside her. His smirk was almost predatory as he leaned a little closer, violet eyes glinting in the low light. "You look at me with that eye again," he teased, his voice low and playful but carrying a weight she couldn't ignore. Her cheeks flushed deeper as their gazes locked. She wasn't sure if it was anger, embarrassment, or something in between. She snapped her head forward, clutching the book tightly as if it were her last shield. Her voice came out a little too loud, shaky but determined. "No, I'm reading book." She didn't dare to look at him again, afraid his expression would pull her into the same dizzying feeling she'd just experienced. Her fingers tightened slightly around the edges of the book, the warm lamplight brushing against her pink hair. Her brows furrowed as an annoyed thought flickered through her mind. Obviously, he's the president of a large corporation. How could he act so weird? She complained silently. Her cheeks were still flushed from earlier, and though she tried to focus on the lines of text in front of her, her thoughts were already tangled up with him. Just beside her, his gaze fell quietly on her profile. His usual composed, indifferent mask had begun to crack ever so slightly. My control seemed useless to be with her, he admitted to himself. For a man used to dominance and power, this strange pull toward her was something he hadn't expected and couldn't shake off. The distance between them felt too small. His robe hung loose, the black fabric opening slightly at the collar, revealing the lines of his chest bathed in the soft evening glow. The closeness wasn't just physical, it carried a weight that made her pulse quicken, even as she stubbornly looked away. Knock knock. A sudden sound echoed through the room, sharp and unexpected. A hand rapped against the door outside. "Where did you two go? I knocked, but no one responded." The familiar voice outside the door sliced through the charged air in the living room. The girl standing outside had fiery red hair that cascaded down her shoulders. Her pink eyes narrowed slightly, her expression holding just the right amount of curiosity and something sharper beneath it. Her earrings swayed as she tilted her head, waiting for a response. But her curiosity curdled into irritation the moment the realization hit her. She is with Mr. Bei Ming? This bitch. I don't know how many tricks she used. Her inner voice dripped with venom. Her lips pressed into a thin line as her hand tightened at her side. Inside, the atmosphere shifted as the door opened. The red-haired girl froze at the sight before her, the two of them sitting together on the couch. He was leaning back casually, robe half open, tapping on his laptop. She was next to him, holding a book tightly against her chest, eyes slightly wide. "Surprise!" The word floated between them like an unspoken reaction. The pink-haired girl quickly stood up, forcing an awkward smile onto her face. She pointed toward another corner of the room and spoke, her tone a little rushed but polite. "I will go there and read book. You sit here." It was both an excuse and an escape, a desperate attempt to diffuse the growing tension she could already sense.
She clutched the thick book tightly against her chest, her arms stiff as she pointed toward the other side of the room. Her gesture was polite, yet a bit hurried, like she was trying to put distance between herself and the rising tension that filled the air. The soft fabric of her robe brushed against her skin as she turned slightly away. "I'll go there and read," she had said moments before. It sounded casual, but deep down, her heart was racing. His eyes darkened, a shadow crossing his expression. Inside, a bitter thought rose like smoke. "This idiot girl always tries to push me to another girl. Doesn't care about me even for a little," he thought, his jaw tightening. It was ridiculous how easily she brushed him off, how unaware she seemed of the way she stirred something uncontrollable inside him. The red-haired girl, still standing near the doorway, fiddled nervously with her hands as her lips parted. Her voice was soft and uncertain, like she was testing the waters. She glanced at him, her eyes shimmering with something that looked suspiciously like expectation. But his response came cold and precise. "I'm busy in a minute. You wait for me under the bar. I'll be there later." His words were steady, almost detached. He didn't even look at her fully, his gaze still fixed elsewhere, as if her presence barely stirred him. The message was clear. She would have to wait. Her lips curled slightly, a satisfied glimmer flashing across her face. She tilted her head, her earrings swaying gently as she let out a low, knowing laugh under her breath. She thought she had won something. In the distance, the pink-haired girl sat alone on the couch, a small and quiet presence against the warmth of the room. "So I will wait for you. Don't be late." She spoke sweetly, but there was an edge to her tone, the kind of confidence born from someone who believed they had already secured his attention. She turned gracefully, letting her fiery hair fall behind her like a wave. The pink-haired girl lifted her book higher, trying to use it as a wall between herself and everything else. A soft, complicated thought twisted through her mind. Is he angry again? Why does it become like this? Maybe it won't be relevant to me. He'll be with Tong Fei Fei tonight. Isn't this good? I won't be tormented anymore. Her heart felt heavy, even though her words tried to convince her otherwise. She curled her legs up on the couch, pulling the book closer to her face until only her wide violet eyes peeked over its edge. The room was quiet, except for the faint sound of his breathing beside her. He sat in silence, unreadable, his presence filling the space even without a single word. And though she told herself she didn't care, her heart wouldn't stop beating a little too fast. As the door opened, the woman with flowing red hair greeted warmly, a bright smile lighting up her face. "Yay, here you are," she said, her voice soft yet full of anticipation. The warm light from the room cast a golden halo around her, highlighting her elegant figure and the charm in her gaze. The woman stood confidently, her elegant purple dress revealing just enough to make hearts skip a beat. The high slit on her thigh exposed black lace garters, adding a touch of daring allure to her graceful presence. The man facing her couldn't help but silently admire her beauty. The girl with pink hair clenched her fists, frustration rising inside her. "This guy is too much," she thought bitterly. "He gave me permission to study for exams, but instead he forced me to serve them." Her eyes flashed with resentment as she glanced at the tall man standing beside her, looking cold and composed. Without a word, his hand reached out, firmly wrapping around hers.
She flinched at the sudden contact, feeling the weight of his silent authority. His grip wasn't rough, but it carried the unspoken message that she couldn't simply walk away. The red-haired woman leaned closer to the man, her lips curling into a seductive smile. "Yea, am I beautiful?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with confidence. The soft lighting reflected off her delicate features, making her even more dazzling in that moment. The man turned away from the red-haired woman, a sly smile tugging at his lips. "Next time," he said, locking eyes with the pink-haired girl. "See?" His voice carried a teasing arrogance. The red-haired woman's smile faltered slightly, sensing the shift in his attention. The pink-haired girl stood still, her eyes wide, heart pounding. His words struck her like a cold wind. She didn't reply, but her silence spoke louder than words. "He's shameless, evil. How can I wear like that? Never!" She screamed in her mind, even as she forced herself to obey his order. She picked up the bottle of wine, her movements stiff with suppressed emotion. With a steady hand, she poured the deep red wine into his glass. The rich liquid swirled like velvet, but her expression was far from calm. She kept her head down, refusing to meet his gaze, trying to keep her pride intact in this humiliating moment. Suddenly, before she could step back, a strong arm wrapped around her. Hug! The unexpected touch froze her in place. Her breath caught in her throat, a mix of shock and anger coursing through her. Their faces were so close that she could feel his warm breath against her skin. His eyes gleamed with a mix of amusement and dominance as he whispered, "Looking at this bottle, I suddenly wanted to know what you would look like when you're drunk." The words made her grip the bottle tighter, her heart pounding uncontrollably. He stepped even closer, wrapping one arm around her waist, pulling her against him. The bottle was trapped between them, her knuckles white from how tightly she held it. His presence was overwhelming, like a shadow that swallowed the light around her. She turned her head sharply, summoning every ounce of courage she had. "No," she shouted, her voice trembling but determined. Her body twisted in protest, but his gaze remained calm and dangerous, as if her resistance only entertained him. His voice turned low and threatening as his grip tightened. "You can try to leave here," he warned softly, his lips curling into a chilling smile, "and I will show you the consequences of opposing me." His words slithered into her ears, making her shiver despite the warmth of the room. He held a glass of wine up to her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. Her eyes wavered, filled with both fear and hesitation. She knew that no matter how much she wanted to fight, his power was something she couldn't easily defy. "Drink it all," he commanded, pushing the glass closer to her lips. His voice left no room for refusal. Her hands trembled slightly, but she reached for the glass, knowing she had no choice. With a resigned breath, she tilted the glass back and let the wine flow down her throat. The bitter, heavy liquid burned as it slid down, mixing with the feeling of helplessness that spread through her chest. The alcohol hit her fast, painting her cheeks a deep shade of pink. Her body grew warm, her eyelids heavy. So, can I go back to the room?" she asked in a faint, slurred voice, her words soft and uncertain. He smirked, his arm wrapping tighter around her waist as he whispered, "Sure, I will go with you." His words sounded gentle, but the weight of them pressed down on her, making escape impossible. Just then, the red-haired woman from earlier stepped forward with a sultry smile. Her voice dripped with sweetness and jealousy. "Yi, I'm drunk too. Can you go to the bedroom with me?" she asked, her eyes fixed on him.
The air grew heavier, tension swirling between all three of them.
The red-haired woman's lips curved into a playful, almost teasing smile, her voice soft, yet laced with jealousy. But before she could take another step closer, the man's tone cut through the air, calm and firm. "If you were drunk," he said coldly, "then you should go back to your bedroom yourself." His arms subtly tightened around the pink-haired girl beside him, as if declaring his choice without a second thought. The redhead's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly at the quiet rejection. Later, behind the closed door of the bedroom, he stood before her, holding up a delicate, revealing nightgown. The fabric shimmered faintly in the warm light, soft and seductive. His gaze was intense as he ordered, "Wear it for me." His words weren't a request, they were a command, and his eyes left no space for refusal. She looked up from where she was sitting, her body stiffening as her eyes landed on the garment dangling in front of her. The black and pink lace looked more like a temptation than clothing. His tall figure loomed over her, creating a sense of pressure that made her chest tighten. Her heart raced, and her mind screamed for escape, but her body wouldn't move. Her trembling fingers brushed against the fabric as she whispered, almost to herself, "This nightgown is too revealing. No, I can't. I can't wear it." Her voice cracked slightly, caught between fear, shame, and resistance. She clutched the soft material to her chest, shrinking into herself as if trying to disappear from the intensity of his gaze. Her flushed cheeks and tearful eyes revealed everything she was too afraid to say aloud. On the floor, she knelt with the nightgown gathered tightly in her lap, the hem of her simple pajamas peeking out from underneath. Her bare feet pressed against the cold ground, grounding her in this unwanted moment. The contrast between the modest clothes she wore and the revealing garment in her hands felt like a wall she could not cross. And yet, the weight of his silence above her hung heavy, pressing down like an unspoken threat. His voice was low and firm, his violet eyes locking onto her with a predatory calm. "Wear it," he murmured, the corner of his lips curving upward into a faint smirk. "I'll drop you 10 nights." The promise wasn't kind, it was calculated. 10 nights of freedom dangled like a reward before her, pulling at her fragile resistance. His expression left no doubt. This was an order disguised as mercy. She looked up to him, her cheeks flushed, her breath trembling. "But it's too revealing," she whispered, her voice breaking under the weight of shame and fear. Her violet eyes shimmered in the dim light, reflecting both her unwillingness and the helplessness tightening around her heart. The nightgown in her hand suddenly felt heavier, like a chain she couldn't break. He leaned closer, the smile still playing on his lips, but there was a sharpness behind it, a warning. "Then," he said softly, almost mockingly, "go get some sleep." The words were simple, but his gaze made it clear this wasn't permission to refuse. It was a reminder of the price she'd pay if she didn't comply. Her body trembled as his hand gripped her wrist. A strangled sound escaped her throat as she whispered, "All right, I'll wear it, I'll wear it." Her voice cracked under the pressure, and her body curled inward defensively, trying to protect the last bit of dignity she had left. His grip only tightened, satisfied with her surrender. As he released her, she sat there in silence, clutching the thin fabric to her chest. Her breath came in uneven bursts, her mind repeating one desperate thought over and over again. 10 nights. Be patient. I have to be patient. Her head hung low, her pink hair falling like a curtain around her face, hiding the flicker of tears in her eyes. Slowly, she raised her chin just enough to meet his gaze. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Let go of your hand." Even though she had agreed, a small part of her still clung to the hope of some control, however fragile it might be. Her fingers clenched the fabric tightly, her body tense, knowing that whatever happened next was no longer in her hands. The soft fabric clung to her skin, outlining every curve and delicate ribbons and bows. The black silk straps rested against her collarbone, tied neatly around her slender neck like a fragile ornament. She bit her lips slightly, feeling the weight of what she was wearing, or rather what he had made her wear. Her heartbeat quickened, echoing loudly in her ears. This wasn't just clothing, it was his command, his control. She lowered her gaze, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Sir, did you just say you'll cut 10 nights, right?" Her fingers brushed the hem of the nightgown, the ribbon brushing lightly against her thighs. The words left her lips almost like a plea. 10 nights of freedom. It was the only thing she could cling to, the only way to survive what was happening. Her hope was fragile, like the thin thread holding the garment together. Before she could even process the situation, a strong hand pushed her back. Push! The world tilted, her eyes widened in shock as her body stumbled backward. Her long pink hair fanned out like waves behind her, and the breath caught in her throat. She could barely form a sound as his shadow loomed closer. The air around her turned heavier, almost suffocating. The next second she found herself beneath him. His body hovered above hers, his weight pressing down, locking her in place. His robe hung loose, revealing the sharp line of his collarbone, his dark gaze burning into her skin. A cold smirk spread across his lips, as if he was enjoying every bit of her helplessness. She could feel the warmth of his breath on her skin, the dangerous proximity between them making her entire body tense. Her heartbeat pounded so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. His reply was low, smooth, and cruel. "You heard wrong." The words sliced through the air like a blade. There was no hesitation in his tone, no mercy. Her last strand of hope snapped like a brittle thread. The realization struck her all at once. There was no escape tonight. He tilted his head slightly, his lips curling into a wicked smile. "My woman is doubting me. I should probably show something to make you give up that thought." The way he said "my woman" made her skin crawl, a possessiveness that felt like chains wrapping around her soul. The night grew quiet, save for the sound of their uneven breaths. The dim light painted shadows across the room, the bed becoming a cage she couldn't escape. The soft fabric of the sheets felt cold beneath her skin. Her head rested against the pillow, but her body was frozen, caught between fear and resignation. He sat beside her, the black robe still loosely tied, exposing his chest. His hand held something, a thin, sharp stick glinting faintly under the light. She curled her body away from him, instinctively, her fingers gripping the blanket like a shield. Her breathing grew shallow, panic flickering behind her closed eyes. He leaned closer, his presence suffocating. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her hands gripping the sheets beneath her. She forced out a shaky whisper. "You said, tonight, you have no more energy left. You..." Her voice quivered, barely audible. It wasn't just a question. It was a desperate attempt to find a way out, to remind him of his own words. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Her eyelashes trembled as she shut her eyes tightly, shutting out the light, the room, and him. Her breaths were shaky, uneven. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she silently whispered to herself to endure. Just 10 nights, just 10 nights, but the fear coiled tighter in her chest. The scent of him was too close, the night too long. Lying there in the soft morning light, she turned her head slightly toward him. His face, usually so cold and distant, was softened by the quiet. I've heard, she thought to herself, her eyes tracing the sharp line of his jaw. Smoking isn't truly addictive, but people with lonely hearts often cling to it. She felt a faint tightening in her chest. Could someone like him also be lonely? For a brief moment, she saw not the man who intimidated her, but someone who might carry a weight he never showed. The silence between them broke when he shifted, his smirk curving into place like a practice mask. She flinched, clutching the sheet closer to her bare skin. The soft sound escaped her lips involuntarily as she shrank back. His teasing eyes lingered on her like a flame that refused to look away. He sat up casually, every movement confident and unhurried, as if he were the one in control of everything. He leaned slightly toward her, a playful glint flashing in his eyes. "It's still early in the morning, and you're already groaning on my bed. Are you trying to invite me to eat?" His voice was low, suggestive, deliberately pulling the air tighter between them. She gripped the sheet even harder, heat rising to her face, a mix of shame and anger twisting inside her. Her frustration finally boiled over, her face flushed bright red, violet eyes blazing as she glared up at him. "Obviously, you pushed me too far last night, and now I'm left like this because of you," she shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I don't have anything like that. I don't." The words spilled out like an explosion, raw, desperate, and humiliated. In a sudden burst of panic and embarrassment, she pulled the blanket up to her face and shouted, "Back off!" Her entire body trembled from the intensity of her feelings. He, on the other hand, sat back with an amused expression, almost entertained by her flustered reaction. But to her, every second he stayed there felt suffocating. In the next moment, her legs tangled in the sheets, and with a loud thud, she tumbled out of the bed. Fall! Her bare feet hit the floor awkwardly as she scrambled to her feet. It wasn't graceful at all, but right now, all she wanted was distance from him. He watched her stumble away, resting his chin on his hand, and let out a lazy laugh. "This hot girl," he teased, his voice dripping with mockery. "Do you want this handsome man's help?" His tone was shameless, as if her panic was nothing more than entertainment. "No need," she yelled back, her voice fierce despite the burning on her cheeks. The next second, the sound of hurried footsteps filled the room. "Run!" She grabbed whatever fabric she could cover herself with and rushed toward the door, desperate to escape his teasing presence and her own embarrassment. The room grew quiet again. He stood in front of the mirror, still wearing the same smug smile. His reflection stared back at him, composed, elegant, confident. But beneath that polished exterior, there was something unreadable in his eyes. For a fleeting second, he wasn't the predator in control, just a man looking at himself. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind him. She had thrown on a white bathrobe, her pink hair spilling down like soft silk. She leaned over the sink, startled to find him there. Her eyes widened, exclamation marks practically floating above her head. She hadn't expected to run into him so soon. The air between them grew tight again, awkward, heated, and too close. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted her chin, trying to muster all the courage she could find. "I will be fine," she declared, with a bright yet fragile smile. Her violet eyes were like glass, clear, determined, but betraying a hint of nervousness. Standing between him and the reflection in the mirror, she felt a strange rush of strength she didn't know she had. For a brief second, their hands brushed against each other, hidden behind the thin white fabric of her robe. She didn't know if it was intentional, but the warmth of his skin spread up her arm, tightening something in her chest. The distance between them was too small. She could almost feel the tension vibrating in the air. He leaned closer, a slow, almost predatory smile curving across his lips. "No need to rush," he whispered, his voice dangerously soft. His breath brushed against her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. Her heart hammered wildly as she realized just how close he was. His confidence was overwhelming, swallowing up all the space around her. "Ah!" she gasped as his sudden movement startled her. The world around her seemed to blur, her senses heightened by the heat radiating between them. His nearness was suffocating, intoxicating, and confusing all at once. She wanted to step back, but her feet wouldn't move. "Shameless!" she finally shouted, her voice trembling between anger and panic. Her cheeks flushed a deep crimson, her body stiff. She couldn't tell if she was more furious at him or at herself for reacting so strongly. The room felt both too small and too loud as her words echoed sharply. He chuckled lowly, tilting his head with that same infuriatingly calm expression. "Shh," he murmured, placing a finger lightly against her lips to silence her. His eyes glimmered with mischief as he added, "Don't shout so loudly. I'll quickly satisfy your hobbies." His teasing tone made her heart skip a beat, not out of pleasure, but out of pure burning embarrassment. She stood frozen, caught between wanting to slap him and wanting to disappear entirely. Her lips parted, and a whisper escaped, "You do not—" Her breath hitched as she met his gaze head-on. His eyes held hers effortlessly, steady and intense. And in that moment, the space between them seemed to shrink even further, pulling her into something she wasn't ready to face. A soft pink object flies swiftly through the air, cutting across the pale sky with a faint sound. Someone's startled voice breaks the silence. The moment feels sudden, as if something unexpected is about to happen. In a peaceful park bathed in sunlight, a girl with pink hair and calm purple eyes turns her head toward a familiar sound. A cheerful voice calls out from a distance, "Kaka!" Waving energetically, a bright-eyed girl with a ponytail rushes toward her, a shopping bag swinging by her side. The pink-haired girl blinks in confusion, a small question mark floating above her head. As the two meet, the lively girl speaks with excitement lighting up her face. "Kaka, today Nangang Li was invited to Dongling to attend a party for the upper class. Let's follow him." Her voice carries a spark of adventure, filled with mischief and curiosity. Kaka looks doubtful, her brows knitting slightly. "Where did you get this news from? Is it correct?" she asks, skeptical yet intrigued. The sunlight filters through the leaves, highlighting the contrast between her calm demeanor and her friend's bubbling enthusiasm. With a confident grin, the ponytailed girl waves her hand dismissively. "Trust me, I heard Nangang Li's family is very rich. He films just because of interest. Haven't you heard? The Nan family is one of the top families in Xiling." Her voice carries pride and gossiping excitement, clearly fascinated by the glamorous world she's describing. Kaka sighs softly, worry flickering across her gentle eyes. "I'm just worried he won't cooperate with me. Moreover, how could ordinary people like us attend an upper-class party?" she murmurs, thoughtfully, her hand resting near her chin. But her friend's eyes sparkle with determination as she interrupts. "Don't worry. Invitations, cards, outfits, we've got it all. Let's go change our clothes." Her enthusiasm seems unstoppable, dragging Kaka into the whirlwind of her daring plan. The two girls glance at each other, both hesitating yet secretly thrilled. The pink-haired girl's thoughtful expression softens into curiosity, while her friend's eyes gleam with excitement. Something tells them that today's adventure will lead to much more than they expect. With eyes sparkling like twin stars, the energetic girl thrusts a large bag forward, her smile brimming with excitement. "Don't worry, we've got everything. Invitation cards, outfits, all prepared. Let's go change our clothes, she declares enthusiastically. Her confidence radiates so brightly that even the hesitant Kaka beside her can't help but feel drawn into her energy. Though a sweat drop slides down Kaka's temple, betraying her uncertainty, a faint curiosity begins to stir within her. Maybe, just the maybe, this crazy plan could actually work. Later that evening, under a dimly lit sky, thoughts swirled restlessly in Kaka's mind. Bei Ming, hasn't contacted me for 2 days. Maybe he won't do it tonight. The silence of her room feels heavier than usual, and she can't tell if she feels relief or disappointment. Her heart beats faintly with confusion between excitement for the upcoming party and the ache of waiting for someone who might never reach out again. Meanwhile, somewhere across the city, inside a sleek black car gliding smoothly along the road, a man sits silently by the window. His sharp eyes are half hidden beneath dark lashes, his face unreadable. From the driver's seat, a voice breaks the silence. Sir, do you find Zhao Qingfu's words credible? The accident that year was just an incident. The child in class 3 who collided even disappeared strangely. The man's expression remained still, his gaze lost in the scenery flashing by. The past, shrouded in secrets and unanswered questions, lingers between them like a shadow neither of them dares to confront. In the quiet interior of a sleek car, a man dressed in an elegant dark suit sat with a calm yet commanding aura. His hand rested casually on his lap, the crisp white cuff of his shirt peeking out from beneath the tailored sleeve. Everything about him, from his poised demeanor to his sharp attire, spoke of power and control. Through the car window, the city skyline shimmered beneath the morning sun. The man, his expression cold and calculating, gazed out in deep thought. "Send people to follow him 24/7, he ordered, his tone low and decisive. The reflection of the sky in the glass softened his sharp features, but the steel in his eyes revealed his unyielding determination. At the driver's seat, another man turned slightly, catching a glimpse of the rearview mirror. He awaited further instructions, silent but attentive, knowing that the man behind him was not someone to question. "Yes, sir. So, now we will go to the party?" the driver asked obediently, his voice steady. The atmosphere in the car was one of discipline and quiet authority. "Yes," came the short, firm reply. One word was enough to command complete obedience. The journey continued in silence as the car sped toward the next destination. Moments later, the grand hall of a lavish party came into view. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above as guests in elegant attire mingled beneath the golden light. Laughter and music filled the air, wrapping the evening in an aura of sophistication and mystery. In another part of the venue, a bright, enthusiastic voice echoed, "Our Kaka is the most beautiful person in this school. Look at me, I'm your fan." Her eyes shone with admiration, her excitement lighting up the room. And then she appeared, Kaka, the radiant figure everyone had been talking about. Her long pink hair cascaded down in soft waves, and her mint green gown sparkled under the lights. Every step she took was graceful, her jewels glinting like stars against her porcelain skin. As she glided forward, the soft fabric of her dress swayed around her slender legs. The glimmering heels on her feet clicked lightly on the polished floor, commanding attention with every movement. All eyes turned toward her. She was the embodiment of elegance. "Don't be messy," Kaka said gently, turning to her cheerful friend beside her. Her tone was soft, but her words carried quiet composure. The two girls smiled at each other, surrounded by the dazzling glow of the ballroom, one radiant with beauty, the other with warmth. The elegant woman in a mint green dress let out a quiet sigh, her gaze soft but tinged with the hint of melancholy.
Why don't others say such sincere words? She murmured, her lips curling into a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I really just want to eat a piece of envy cake to heal my hurt soul. The sparkle of her emerald pendant shimmered gently, reflecting the light of the party as if echoing her conflicted emotions. As the evening unfolded, the room filled with laughter and music. The woman in green glanced toward her cheerful friend Xiangxiang, who was happily enjoying her dessert. About the invitation card and the costume, she thought quietly, I really don't know where Xiangxiang got them from. A mixture of curiosity and unease flickered in her violet eyes, even as she tried to blend into the glittering crowd. Standing side by side, the two women formed a striking contrast. The one in green, poised yet reserved, clutched her hands nervously before her. Beside her, Xiangxiang looked completely carefree, savoring every bite of the creamy cake in her hand. The buffet behind them sparkled with colors, towers of sweets, soft lights, and murmurs of conversation. Yet the woman in green seemed lost in thought, her mind elsewhere. Kaka! Xiangxiang laughed brightly, turning toward her friend with eyes full of mischief. Come here! We should solve the stomach first. Her carefree tone broke through the formality of the night, bringing a spark of warmth to the glittering atmosphere. The fork in her hand gleamed under the golden light, a playful weapon against the night's elegance. She held her fork gracefully, a small piece of cake poised at the tip. The rich aroma of cream and sugar mingled in the air, wrapping the moment in simple delight. Dressed in her dark red gown, Xiangxiang looked radiant, her laughter as sweet as the dessert she enjoyed, unbothered by whispers or glances, living only for the joy of the moment. The woman in the elegant mint green dress gazed into the distance, her violet eyes soft yet resolute. After a quiet pause, she whispered to herself, "Fine. Anyone who also has a secret. I'll wait until she chooses to tell me on her own." Her words lingered in the air, filled with patience and quiet determination. Though uncertainty flickered in her expression, there was also a glimmer of trust, an unspoken belief that the truth would eventually come to light. Moments later, the grand ballroom shimmered with light and laughter. A tall man with golden hair and a warm smile approached her. Dressed impeccably in a burgundy suit, he exuded quiet confidence as he said, "This beautiful girl, I've never seen you appear at the party before. Is this your first time here?" His voice carried a hint of curiosity and charm, and the woman, caught off guard, could only smile in response as her friend giggled beside her. The conversation flowed easily between them. The air was light, the laughter genuine. The text across the moment said it all, talking happily. It was as if for a brief instant, the weight of secrets and questions had lifted. Surrounded by the glow of chandeliers and the murmur of other guests, they seemed like old friends, rediscovering joy amid the glitter of the evening. But as the laughter faded, she gracefully lowered her hand and replied, "I rarely appear at parties like this. Today, I just came to play. Sir, I will not bother you anymore." Her tone was polite but distant, the faint smile on her lips betraying a desire to retreat. The man's eyes narrowed slightly, studying her as if trying to read the truth hidden behind her calm demeanor.
Her friend suddenly reached out, lightly touching her arm with concern. The woman turned, her violet eyes widening in surprise, as a quiet gasp escaped her lips. Something in the air shifted, a hint of tension, a spark of realization. The man's presence loomed close, and both women seemed caught between curiosity and unease. To be continued.
Not bother. Me too. I also came here to play. There's nothing important. If we're both here, could I play with you? His words carry a light-hearted flirtation, clearly testing the waters to see how she'll respond. The scene shifts to a lively girl with bright blue eyes and a teasing smile. Her long, golden-brown ponytail sways as she turns toward him, unimpressed by his attempt at charm. With a hint of sarcasm in her voice, she says, "Hey bro, this way of flirting seems a bit old. Behind her, a friend with soft pink hair watches curiously, surprised by her bold reaction. As the girl crosses her arms confidently, her inner thoughts echo loud and clear. Kaka really hates guys who only know how to use their handsome looks to flirt with girls around. Her disdain for shallow charm is obvious. No matter how good-looking he might be, his words alone aren't enough to impress her. A tall, confident man with golden hair and striking green eyes stands in a luxurious hall, the golden lights reflecting softly around him. Dressed impeccably in a dark maroon suit and a bow tie, he carries an air of authority and elegance. With a faint but assured smile, he introduces himself, saying, "I am Dongfang Chen, General Manager of Dongfang Group." His voice is calm yet commanding, echoing through the grand room, instantly drawing everyone's attention. As he speaks, Dongfang Chen gracefully reaches into his breast pocket, pulling out a sleek white business card edged with gold. His movements are composed and deliberate, every gesture exuding sophistication. The light catches on the polished surface of the card, emphasizing his status and refinement. His calm demeanor shows that he's a man used to commanding respect and leaving a lasting impression. Across the room, two young women stare in astonishment, their eyes widening in disbelief. One of them, with chestnut hair and vivid blue eyes, can hardly contain her surprise, while the other, with pastel pink hair and bright violet eyes, looks equally amazed. Their voices tremble with awe as they exchange glances and whisper, "Dongfang Group? Is that the largest corporation in Donglin City?" The realization of the man's identity sends ripples of excitement and admiration through the crowd, marking the beginning of an unexpected encounter. Two elegantly dressed young women appear, standing side by side, their expressions calm yet confident. A speech bubble reveals their identity. "We are students of Yifei Office of Student Affairs." The atmosphere feels formal, as if they are introducing themselves in front of others. Above them, bold letters encourage readers to continue. Watch the next chap on mangakiss.org. It feels like the calm before something important unfolds. Laughter fills the air. The scene shifts to floating speech bubbles of "ha ha ha" and "oh dear," echoing through the space. The teasing tone suggests that someone might be mocking or amused by the previous statement. The laughter feels light, yet slightly condescending, hinting at an unseen group reacting to what was just said. The perspective turns back to the two young women, their faces showing surprise and confusion. The girl with light brown hair parts her lips slightly, asking, "What's up?" Beside her, the girl with long pink hair stares ahead, wide-eyed, as if she's just realized something shocking. Her inner thoughts surface. That is, the light around them seems tense, suggesting that what they see or hear next will change the tone completely. As the grand door slowly opened, a tall figure stepped into the room. The sharp sound of polished shoes clicking against the marble floor caught everyone's attention. The air seemed to shift, heavy with admiration and curiosity. The man's confident stride and elegant attire radiated authority and charm. A voice broke through the stunned silence, trembling with disbelief. "Oh my, he is Nan Gong Li!" In that instant, all eyes turned toward him, the name echoing through the hall like a spell. Gasps and whispers filled the room as the crowd tried to catch a glimpse of the man who had just entered. A group of young women, dressed in shimmering gowns, stood frozen, their hearts racing. Their eyes sparkled, some shaped like hearts, others wide in awe, as they clasped their hands together, overwhelmed by his presence. One of them, her face flushed with excitement, covered her mouth and whispered breathlessly, "Someone please save me. He's even more beautiful than on TV."
Their admiration was almost tangible, a wave of fascination spreading among them like wildfire. At the center of the glowing room stood 5 men, all dressed impeccably in black suits. They exuded an aura of quiet power and sophistication, their backs straight, their presence commanding. Among them, one figure stood out, his hair a striking silver that gleamed under the golden lights, making him impossible to ignore. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, mixing awe with curiosity. Every step they took seemed rehearsed, graceful, yet intimidating. Together they looked like a constellation of stars, but it was the man with silver hair who drew every gaze, the mysterious Nangongli himself. The room fell silent as the sound of footsteps echoed across the marble floor. A faint, golden light poured in from the entrance, outlining the tall silhouettes of 2 men in sharp suits. Their presence carried an air of quiet authority, steady, confident, and unshakable. From where they stood, the 2 young women could only watch, their hearts beating faster with every step that drew closer. One of them, her long dark hair cascading down her back in a delicate braid, clenched her hands together nervously. The other, dressed in white, felt a sudden chill despite the warmth of the lights around them. They had been waiting for this moment for them. The tension in the air was almost tangible. No one dared to speak. The men's shadows stretched long across the floor until they stopped right before the women. For a brief second, time seemed to freeze. Every breath, every heartbeat, hanging in the fragile silence that bridged the space between them.